Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life here, and we are about to talk through one of the biggest franchises out there. One of the famous franchises, alongside the likes of Halloween and Friday the 13th. Everybody knows who Freddy Krueger is. It is A Nightmare on Elm Street. We have watched all the films all the way through, excluding Freddy vs. Jason, because we couldn't work out if we wanted to do that as part of a Nightmare film series or the Friday the 13th. The fact we're not doing it here means it'll probably be eventually included in the Friday the 13th stuff more than anything else. Although it could easily pop into this. It's a combination of the two. But because of them hinting about it in Friday the 13th, not Nightmare on Elm Street. So at the end of Jason Goes to Hell, that film, it famously ends with Jason's mask on the ground and then Freddy's claw came out and dragged it down. And because they were planning it way back in the 90s and wouldn't actually do it until the noughties. That's why I feel it probably fits more there than here. They actually reference it in the Friday the 13th movie. Never reference it in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, this is one of the most famous franchises ever. But also one that you kind of forget is flawed as fuck. Like, it's flawed as fuck. There are 9 films, a television series, novels, comic books. It's a franchise. From it, I've seen all the movies many, many times. I have seen the TV series. In fact, go to gbhbl.com and search under TV series category and you will find Freddy's Nightmares, both seasons, reviewed by me. It was kind of like a Tales from the Crypt sort of thing. So you get an introduction by Freddy Krueger and then you get a story around them. Some of them were great. Some of them weren't. Like any anthology show.
Hit and miss.
Exactly that. Never really read any books. No. You know, I've got a few things related to it. I want to lean back and pull one up now. We have this. The Elm Street Legacy. Never Sleep Again. Which is the making of Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, lots of artwork, lots of pictures, stuff like that. Very cool book. A nice little collector's thing to have. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the films. We're going to be talking our way through the films, discussing the stories, characters, what we think about the films overall. We have got things like tier rankings of character deaths and stuff like that. And I guess at the end of this as well, we'll try and put them in order of what we think's the best to worst.
I mean, my introduction to these films is I saw these quite late. Very late. I think the first time I watched the first film was with you a few years back. So I didn't have the same sort of reference of watching these as a child. Like any of them. So it's a bit unusual.
I'm glad you brought it up now. I'm going to mention that. I'm going to say, mention exactly that. The major franchises, I didn't watch a lot of them as a kid. I saw Halloween, the original Halloween, and stuff like that as a child, but I didn't watch Friday the 13th until I was a lot older. I had never any interest in it. This franchise, though, watched to death as a child. Really, really did. This is the one that stood out the most more than any of the others for me. But I always remember the first and the second, third films more, and New Nightmare more than anything else. Whereas films 4, 5, and 6, Dream Master, Dream Child, and Freddy's Dead, I had vague recollections of. For good reason, because even as a child I wasn't stupid enough to enjoy those. Anyway, franchise began in 1984. The very first film was released then, created by the legendary Wes Craven, responsible for some of the best movies you'll ever see, iconic moments in horror. The story revolves around Freddy Krueger. That is that I always say this as a starting point. Watch the first film and look at the credits. And the credits roll at the start, and it ends, the last credit is, and Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Get to the fourth film. Who's got top billing? Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. That's the biggest difference you'll notice. Freddy has very minimal screen time. I think it's, 6 to 8 minutes in the first film? Very little screen time. By the franchise's end, he is all it's about. It's all about that. It becomes a cartoon character. Let's talk scares. Overall, I was never really frightened of these movies. I wasn't. I don't even think the first one is scary. I think it has scary imagery. There are some great stuff we'll get into that it does quite well, but I would never have thought they were scary. It's more I think, and I'm feeling uncomfortableness at time. You think about the third film, you think about Philip and the marionette death and stuff like that. That's more just, you know,
like
make
that.
a face. But scary?
No.
I never felt scared of Freddy Krueger. Why? I've got such strong childhood memories of him.
Yeah.
You know? And it's hard. When you're older and you look back and you think, what scared me as a child? It's really difficult to identify because as an adult, you've kind of broken it apart. And it's not as terrifying or scary. But I do this comparative. What are my most iconic movies to me? The Return of the Living Dead, Demons. These are my icons.
Yeah.
Why are they? Because they scared me as a child. They scared me. Demons in particular, I cite as one of my childhood nightmares.
Yeah.
I had nightmares over that movie, which is something that doesn't happen to me. That never happened with Freddy Krueger. As much as I enjoy the franchise.
Yeah, and you think that this would be the one you'd have more nightmares about.
You would think, right? Considering its thing. But no, I guess I was attracted to Freddy Krueger. Not in that way. Not in that way. He's an ugly fucker. I love Robert Englund. He's a wonderful looking dude and I admire him as an actor so much. Go check out some of his latest work. The man has done, and even during the era, he did so many great movies that you may not even know. Something like The Mangler. Even his slight roles where he kind of pops up in bad movies. Like I love it when he appears in Urban Legend and things like that. He's the professor and stuff like that. He's just one of our icons,
And
you know?
Wishmaster. Yeah.
Wishmaster, of course, you know? God, there's a franchise to watch for, 4 films. 4, 5? Anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've already mentioned Robert Englund stars as Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger, and we're going to remove the remake side of this just momentarily. We're going to put that to the side because we're going to reference just what is the franchise's main overarching story.
Yeah.
Which is that Freddy Krueger was a child murderer.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Child murderer who was burned alive by the parents of some of the victims and the people of Springwood, Springwood, Illinois. Vigilante justice, he was burned alive and basically he's returned. How and why never really made clear until the last film. Oh God, Freddy's dead, but we'll get into that shit as well when we get there. And he kills them he builds fear up in them through their dreams, terrifies them before eventually killing them. I don't believe it's like he needs the power. At first, however, it's hard. I'm now referencing Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah.
Freddy vs. Jason, unfortunately, does do an angle which does make sense, which is that Freddy, because he's been forgotten. The whole angle. Do you know Freddy vs. Jason? The angle is that he gets Jason out of hell to go kill for him in Springwood, thinking that people will believe that Freddy Krueger's come back.
Right.
If they're talking about him, they'll believe in him.
Right.
His power returns because he's got no power. No one, it's like anything.
Like celebrities in general.
If you're forgotten about, you're nobody.
Yeah.
That's it. If they're talking about you, you're remembered.
Yeah.
That's how, So I guess you can kind of say that's implied. He's building up the fear to the point where he can then kill them. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's never really made clear, certainly not in the first film. The original film was written and directed by Wes Craven. He would return to co-write the second sequel, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and New Nightmare. The rest of it not involved. In fact, the major person you'll see involved comes from New Line Cinema, actually. It's Robert Shea.
Oh, yeah.
If you're thinking Shea, that sounds familiar. He is the brother of the actress Lynn Shea, a wonderful, wonderful actress who does have cameo roles in the original movie and the New Nightmare. So check out for Lynn Shea popping up there. You're thinking Lynn Shea was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I know. Rewatching it, when I saw her name pop up, I was like, oh my God, what's Lynn Shea in this? She's the school teacher when Nancy falls asleep in class. In New Nightmare, she's one of the nurses who actually is Freddy in disguise as well at some point. That's that. Robert Shea is the major driving force behind these. He is involved with every movie being of New Line Cinema. Collectively, these films have grossed 750 million and thereabouts at the box office worldwide. They have been incredibly successful. New Line cite this franchise as why they're big, like why they became so big, which you can't really argue about, you know. Yeah, so brings us to the first film. Obviously, anybody that talks and thinks about Nightmare on Elm Street, this is the movie you reference. People will automatically say it is the best one.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It is as simple as that. But it's It's aged.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
aged. Let's not ignore that.
Yeah, and I think there's from doing the tier rank of the deaths, there's other deaths that I preferred more in later films.
That's fair.
So
That's fair, yeah. But it, of course, stars Heather Langenkamp. She will play Nancy. We have John Saxon as Nancy's father. Ronnie Blackley.
don't know who that is.
Nope. Robert England, obviously, as Freddy Krueger. And, famously, Johnny Depp.
Oh, maybe Ronnie
his-
Blackley's her mum, because Ronnie's spelled in it's like a feminine way.
Oh, you're probably right, actually. I think
Yeah.
it is.
Ronnie.
And, of course, as we said, Johnny Depp. Obviously, this is his feature film debut. Famously known now to be in this. It's like a... People are like, it's pub trivia, but it's like, it's not. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. It's one of the most iconic and legendary deaths. Check out our tier ranking to see where we put it. I made a mistake. I will say now, it's not Springwood, Illinois. It's Springwood, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking of Springfield,
Yeah.
which happens to not be related to
No.
Freddy Krueger. Although I'm pretty sure the Simpsons have done it in a Halloween special.
Yeah.
No doubt. Everybody has,
Yeah.
you know? And don't tell me that, Scary Terry
Oh yeah.
from
of
Rick and
course.
Morty
Oh,
isn't
God.
directly referencing.
Yeah. Scary Terry, bitch.
Super low budget. It was estimated to be 1.8 million. Released 1984, November 9th. Grossed 57 million worldwide. So a pretty damn good success. Really, really was raved about at the time. There's lots of things about like the premise about it, like that people have tried to break down since and things like that in regards to morality, particularly related to Halloween as well, about like sexually promiscuous teenagers. It's no surprise that Tina dies first after having sex,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I never really bought into that side of
No.
things. I think that's just like
It's like it doesn't.
teens have sex. It's what
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah. And they didn't actually show it as like she was in a relationship with a boyfriend.
Well, I always got that on and off.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point into them being safe. I mean, that's the point. I don't know, but overall, I didn't see it as like they're all at it all the time. Like I've seen a lot more teen films that have a lot more promiscuity than this. I don't.
The only thing that backs it up,
Yeah.
which I think about it, is let's take the Halloween franchise, or the Halloween films, and Nightmare on Elm Street. The leads, our surviving leads, are wholesome.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, babysitter,
Yeah.
never has sex. Nancy, Glenn wants to. Nancy knocks him back. There's a yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a yeah.
I mean, and in Scream as well. After she has sex, she's still like a hero character, isn't she?
No, I think by the 90s Craven had obviously, if it was, if he'd ever thought about it, I doubt he was thinking too much about it in 1996. Times had changed, big time by then.
Yeah.
We were through the Video Nasty Panic. Remember 84, the release of this, the height of it.
Yeah.
You know, there you go. So film starts. It actually opens with Freddy basically already existing, and it's Tina who is haunted by him. Tina, one of the most famous characters. And this is like your early kind of clue about what happens in the dream happens in real life, because she's in the boiler room. You get a lot of good scares. Never really see him here. A lot of noises. Love the effects of the boiler room. Really grotty. And she isn't waking up. She's got slashes down her nightgown from where Freddy attacked her, which is quite something. She ends up meeting up later on with her friends Nancy, Glenn, and they kind of talk about dreams here. And there's an implication they're all dreaming the same thing by facial reactions, but no one ever openly says it.
Yeah.
That comes later at the sleepover. The one I always kind of noticed the most is Glenn, Johnny Depp, actually, who seems to almost not want to admit it.
Yeah. Like, oh.
Yeah. Rod, weirdly enough, is more open about it later on than anything else, which is kind of cool. We get we get to the sleepover, so Tina's mother's going out, so Nancy, Glenn, and Tina are staying there. We get a lengthy fake out where you like noises outside, they go to the checkout and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's Rod.
Yeah.
Rod comes along, him and Glenn almost fight. Very cheesy, a little bit cheesy here.
Yeah.
But Rod ends up hooking up with Tina, and so on. She asks Nancy to stay the night. Glenn stays as well. They have to listen to them banging.
Yeah.
And we don't see anything. Obviously, we sort of said we don't see anything. You hear it. As Glenn makes a joke about, like, I can't remember what he says. Some joke about them banging and him not because he tries it with Nancy and she's like, no, Glenn.
No.
We should say that Heather Langenkamp isn't the best in this movie.
No.
She's not the best. I think she gets better in later films, particularly by New Nightmare, definitely. But this isn't a starring role. It's an iconic character, but it's not a starring, here's an Oscar, kind of thing. Certainly not. After sex, Tina falls asleep. And this is the major dream sequence where she will end up dead, effectively. There's an effect in this dream sequence that I don't like.
Okay.
I don't like it. It's always didn't sit right with me. In the alleyway.
Yeah.
Freddy stretches out his arms really long.
Oh, yeah.
And from the distance angle, it looks really shit.
Yeah.
It looks really shit. Like his
That
arms
pipe cleanery.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's not great. You had Robert holding...
That broom...
Yeah,
that pole
it's not
almost.
great. It's not a great effect. But yeah, she tries to get away from him. Obviously, she doesn't. He gets her before she gets in, and they struggle in some bushes. Which in real life, we clip back to real life, the waking world. Rod is knocked out of bed while her struggling. She's bouncing around as if she's having a nightmare, but it's quite an aggressive one. He tries to wake her up, but she then sort of swings around violently, knocks him out of the bed. And this is where her death. She starts getting slashed. You get a close-up of her chest being slashed, and it's really violent. And then she's dragged up the wall, all while Rod can just watch. Her screams bring Nancy and Glenn, who can't get in at all. She's dragged up the wall, and then from the top, she drops into the bed, and that glorious splash of blood. Rod gets splashed with it. On the other side of the door, Nancy and Glenn hear Rod shouting, like as if he's shouting at, "Who are you? Where are you?" and stuff like that. When they get in, Rod's run out the window, and Tina's dead. Like, her body is dead. Doesn't look good for Rod.
No.
Does not look good for Rod at all. The police come, obviously. Nancy's father is the head of the sheriff.
Yep.
The sheriff, the head of police. The sheriff
Yeah.
of the town. Mwah.
Oh,
John Saxon.
Yeah.
His name needs no introduction.
Yeah.
John Saxon has had many iconic roles. Some even some of the worst movies. I will always remember Cannibal Apocalypse for all its crapness for John Saxon. But when I think of John Saxon, some people might think of the movie he did with Bruce Lee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not me. I never watched those films growing up. It's Nightmare. I think John Saxon in Nightmare. The man has such poise, authority, build. He's perfect as Nancy's father.
Yeah,
he's an
definitely.
authoritative character. And he's just fucking great to look at.
Yeah.
He's just great. His jawline, his stance.
Eyebrows.
He is brilliant. One of my favourite moments in this movie is when Nancy talks to him about Fred Krueger, finding out, and it's Fred Krueger, and you see his face like harden, and he just goes, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Like, I love that shit. Give me more, like John Saxon. That's one of my favourite things about New Nightmare is his returning role and the ending sequence to that where it starts to merge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course Street Warriors, but we'll get into that. Obviously, Rod is suspected, but he's run away. Nancy, things happen a little bit too quickly. The next day, Nancy's going to school.
Yeah, no,
There's a little bit of talk with her mother and all that. She doesn't really get along with her mother very well. They're divorced, the mother and father.
Yep.
It's implied because of things they did in the past, which we will get to,
Yep.
that they couldn't quite get over. And her mother's, I don't think she's quite an alcoholic yet, but she's a growing
more
alcoholic.
dependent,
Yeah, becoming more dependent.
Yeah.
We see that later on when we see she hides bottles and stuff like that. But she's very kind to Nancy and stuff like that. Mothers her maybe a bit too much, which seems to wind Nancy up. Nancy's a teenager after all. While Nancy's on her way to school, Rod does the incredibly smart thing of grabbing her by the fucking mouth, drags her into the bushes. Love this scene. Love this scene of Rod. Wicked acting. Where he explains to her, "I didn't do it." Nancy hears him out, and he explains, he's like, "Look, I didn't do it, and so on." And this is where you kind of get the link to the Freddy Krueger. So Nancy's willing to hear him out because she shares the same dreams.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
Basically, her father used her
To get
to knowing has been tailing her, knowing that Rod might
go for her.
Yeah. If he, or at least try to make contact with her, being Tina's best friend.
Yeah.
Saxon arrests him. Love the shot of Rod running down the street barefoot.
Yeah.
And stuff like that before he gets surrounded by police and is arrested. Nancy's pissed off at her dad. But she still goes to school. Someone should tell this girl to have a day off.
Yeah.
And then we get iconic sequences, I think, in the school. Nancy falls asleep in class. This is where she's flipping through the book and sees lots of stuff. And this is obviously the iconic shots of Tina in the
body bag.
the body bag.
Yeah.
It's built up by this wonderful scene where she runs into a hall monitor and knocks her down. And she's like, "Screw your hall pass!" And then it sees it's Freddy as well. The laugh and the fact that it's not quite ready. It's got the claw and the jumper.
Yeah.
The voice, but it's not Freddy. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
You see Tina in this body bag, calling to Nancy. Nancy decides to follow, as you might do in a dream anyway. The scene of her being sort of dragged off. It's iconic shots, man. It really is. She ends up following the body bag down into a boiler room. Yeah. Freddy's boiler room. And he teases her, chases her. She ends up waking herself up by burning her arm on a pipe. When she wakes up, she sees that she's still got the burn mark. It's the first clue for Nancy, who is at least a smart character, that, oh, wait, that can happen there and here at the same time, which suggests what we would see later on. Nancy visits Rod at the police station. They talk some more about it. And this is where I think Nancy believes that, that there is, Freddy's real. Something's going on there. Because there's something her parents are telling her. Yeah. This is clear, this man is something related to the town of Springwood. Again, we then cut back home where she's now trying to stay awake. Yeah. And this, again, is another iconic shot. So iconic is the bathtub scene, which is famously shot from the legs down, from the base of the bathtub where Nancy's head is underwater and her legs are sticking up, and Freddy's claw comes up between her legs. It's iconic, it's memorable.
Just got to say though, that's a well-known tip for staying awake is a nice warm bath. That's one of their top 10 lists.
Yeah, there is that.
Nice warm bubble bath.
The remake would do this same scene, but it would drop the next part, which is Freddy dragging her into the water. And it's like a giant pool at that point. Yeah. She managed to escape and I guess wakes up where her mother, her panicking brings her mother in and mother's checking on her and she's like, oh, I just fell asleep. She's very quick to not tell her mother what happened because she expects not to be believed. Yeah. That's very important as well, I think. This is where Glenn becomes such a dickhead. So Nancy's scared to go to sleep, but she knows she has to. So she asks Glenn to come over and watch her while she sleeps. Yeah. Stay awake. Yeah. If you see me in trouble... Wake me up. Yep. Glenn is less believing about the whole thing. So falls asleep anyway. Nancy in her dreams ends up visiting Rod and sees Freddy kill Rod. We see Freddy go for the handlebars, the bars of the cell, look at Nancy. And in the real world, he's making it so that a blanket becomes like a noose. Yeah. Rod dies via hanging. But then with Rod out of the way, that now clear, so to speak, Freddy turns his attention to Nancy. Yeah. She wakes up, shouts at Glenn a bit. Glenn, I asked you to do one damn thing. This is better from Head-Banging Camp. When she seems a bit better when she's under pressure. Yeah,
she's got more focus.
Yeah, it seems like when she's just being a normal teenager, not so good. When she's having to be scared under pressure, much better stuff from Head-Banging Camp. She rushes off to the police station, demands to see Rod. Obviously, no. Her father comes in. She's like, look, let me see him. They end up finding him dead. Yeah. Yeah, basically dead. They try to save him. Do like the scene of them trying to save him anyway. Yeah. But it's too late. He's already blue by that point. Rod's funeral. Rod's funeral with the worst priest ever. Do you remember this priest? Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Oh, yeah.
The fuck, guy? I mean...
Teenage boy.
Come on, man. I understand, he was suspected of doing this, and it all sort of feels related to that. But this is where Nancy first sort of describes the dreams to her parents. You get a knowing glance between them. Yeah. You get looks and stuff like that, which implies, again, you know who this guy is. Nancy's not stupid. She's aware as well, I believe. She goes to a sleep disorder clinic. Marge, her mother, takes her to a sleep disorder clinic where you will see Robert Shea doing his thing as the doctor. Love this sequence. Yeah. Again, so this is about monitoring her brainwaves, seeing how she sleeps during REM and stuff like that. Perfectly fine. She's not been sleeping. Why not do it? Yeah. They're going to be monitoring her. In her dream, Nancy ends up fighting with Freddy. And one of the things you're going to love about Nancy early on here, she's not Tina. No. Tina runs. Yeah. And when Nancy runs, when it comes to it, and she's struggling with Freddy, I never felt like Freddy was ever getting the upper hand. No. I always felt, which is why I guess she's his rival, which obviously ties into the third film, and New Nightmare.
This is a bit of fighting now.
she's game for it. She becomes more and more game by the time this goes on. Because when she wakes up from her nightmare, she has pulled his fedora out. So is he Freddy Krueger? His iconic outfit is the slacks and the coloured top, the red and green dirty sweater, the hand glove, and his brown fedora. And in it has the word Fred Krueger written in it.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. Interesting how often he's referred to as Fred Krueger in the original, where it becomes Freddy later on. Iconic moment again, great memorable scene. And we're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I love that sequence because it's such a realization. Oh, you can take stuff from the dream out. Okay, so Freddy's got a weakness. There's a weakness.
Yeah, which is good to
If you can take his shit, you're like, oh, okay, your power is in dreams.
Yeah.
How do you remove that from you?
Yeah.
Okay, then we're on. So, back home, Nancy is very dismayed to see that her mother has put bars all over the window, which means Glenn's not really going to be able to come visit because he climbs up the, what do they call that thing? Like plants and ladder.
Oh, trellis?
Yeah, so Glenn uses that and that's been taken down as bars over the window. She flips out of Marge, but Marge decides to reveal the truth. She's drunk. I think she's drunk, the way she behaves.
Yeah.
But I do love this sequence. It's wonderful acting. Wonderful acting. She takes it to the basement, where inside their giant boiler, which I guess doesn't get used anymore, it's probably an old-fashioned thing, she shows Nancy she has Freddy's glove.
Yeah.
His original glove, the knives, fingers and stuff like that. And she reveals what happened, that he was a child murderer who was released on a technicality. Someone didn't sign a warrant properly. Love it. I do love it. However, I don't know law, so I'm not a law student, but I'm pretty sure regardless of a technicality like that, you might be that might be thrown out, but a new one will be opened, Donnie.
Yeah.
Like you're not just going to walk out free.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess they didn't wait.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened. They burned alive. They vigilante justice to burn him alive in Freddy Krueger's story. That's when Nancy realizes that they're to blame. That that's what Freddy is. She obviously the picture of him, how he looks, his gooey. He's a lot gooier in the original movie than he is later on. His burns look a lot more fresh. Yeah. Like it's a recent thing. So I think that ties into that. Later on, it's more burn victim style. So Nancy now, well, she thinks she's got it all figured out. So she tries to talk to Glenn, but Glenn's parents don't want her to know.
Yeah.
Think she's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Don't call her again. Takes the phone off the hook. Yeah. This is obviously famously where Glenn falls asleep and is killed by Krueger by being sucked into the bed. The geyser of blood. Yeah. Famous. Legendary. Looks amazing. Really is. Really is amazing.
Death, yeah.
That just leaves Nancy the last one. The last one in this group. What's it called? So decides she formulates a plan basically, which is I'm going to get Krueger out. Yeah. If I can pull his hat out, I can get him out, and if I can bring him to the real world, I can get her father to come and shoot him and kill him. That's her plan. So she ends up putting sleeping pills in her mother's drink to knock her out cold, effectively, and sets this plan up. It's a little bit Home Alone-y.
Yes, with all the traps.
You expect that dun 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 dun. Like she's setting certain traps up to kind of catch him when she has to leave. She calls her father. Love the phone call scene. So they're not even like together. She calls Glenn's house, speaks to her father, and that's when they do the whole. She's like, "I'm going to get him, Dad," and he's like, "Get who?" Fred Krueger, and he's like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. And it's like, and she's so matter of fact about it. This is how Lang came out at best. She's just like, "Look, Dad, just come over at 12:30. It's 12:30 minutes, something like that. Come and right. We'll get to that in a minute because we laughed a lot about the times.
Yeah.
Come over, kick the door in, and so on. Annoyingly, he doesn't really believe her. He just like, yeah, you know what, you get some sleep. He's thinking, yeah, she'll get some sleep, it'll be all okay. Yeah. That kind of thing. The times. So, if I remember correctly, it's like, she looks at her watch and it's like 12:10. Yeah. So she has 20 minutes to set up all these traps, get to sleep, and do all these things. Now, she's exhausted, so you could argue she'll be asleep within a minute. Yeah. But it's well off.
It's been quite a short amount of time to do all that kind of work. But like, what?
We did laugh a bit about it. So yeah, she goes to sleep. Love the sequence of her going to sleep because it's such like this is it. Yeah. This is do or die. Yeah. Either she wins or she dies. Yeah. It really, really is as simple as that. So they struggle. They end up fighting actually on that trestle, I think is what it is. And her alarm clock wakes her up. And initially it seems like she's failed because she's in the room and she's like, God damn it, he's not there. but he is. He's just been down the side of the bed.
Yeah.
The fight is on. She knocks him over, runs out, sets up the first trap. He gets hit with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
There's a flashbulb that goes off. She smashes the window. She's screaming for her father to come over, who hasn't. Fucking Deputy Doofus here, sees her screaming for help. Stands like that.
You investigate, even if it was her just like overreacting.
Like, he's just like watching, like whatever. And then eventually goes, yeah, maybe I should go get the chief.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Come on, guy. Like, considering what's been happening in this town, across the road is another one screaming for help.
Yeah.
That's an instant reaction.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Saxon reacts correctly. So Freddy escapes the bedroom. They end up in the basement where she kind of tricks him by running on the other side. She sets him on fire. He turns into a burning inferno. She runs upstairs, lock him in the basement. He can't get out. He actually falls down the stairs a bit. You then cut Saxon, her father, is running out of the house, calls men over. They kick it, sees the fire this time, and they kick in the door. Find Nancy, and he's talking to her, and she's like, he's in the basement. They go to check the basement door's open. Yeah. Love this shot as you see the burnt footsteps all the way around, leading upstairs. So they escape the bedroom, went upstairs, they run upstairs and open the door to find burning Freddy on top of Marge, both engulfed in fire. Nancy's father covers him with a blanket. When he pulls it off, it's one of my favourite moments of all time, which is the burnt skeleton, like floating backwards into the bed. It fades away, the bed's back to normal, and Nancy's mother's just gone. She's quite upset and stuff like that. Saxon, Nancy's father, he can't quite he can't quite believe what he's seen. He just can't quite believe what he's seen. But he's like, you know, he's like, look, I've got to go deal with it. She's like, it's fine. Go deal with it. Go deal with it. She knows already what's going to happen. Yeah. She knows that there's no real way. You kill him in real life, he's just going back to the dream world. There's no real way to deal with him. He leaves the room and Nancy stays in the bed. She sits at the end of it. And this is when Freddy comes out of the bed. Yeah. So he rises out of the bed, the sheet, and it's like the steam coming off it. He cuts through it. And she's kind of realised that, your power comes from fear. Yeah. Like, without that, you're nothing. Yeah. Like, if I'm not afraid of you, if I don't even believe you're there, you're not there. Yeah. And she tells him that. And it has the desired reaction. He's kind of like, what, you know? Yeah. And he goes to attack her and just falls through her. Disappears, falls through her. And she's like, oh. And that's effectively it. It would have been a perfectly solid ending. Yeah.
It's Hollywood, though.
Yeah, it would have been fine there. She steps through the door and that's it. But she steps through the door and it's like another day. It's a bright, wonderful morning and everyone's still alive. Yeah. Her mother's on the doorstep with her, who even says something like, "Oh yeah, I'm stopping drinking. I don't really enjoy it." Yeah. Like the sort of perfect. Perfect. Glenn, Rod, Tina all pop up in Glenn's convertible. Nancy jumps in. And then you get your first sort of clue that things aren't quite right as the top comes down and it's just colours of Freddy Krueger. The car drives off on its own. Glenn isn't controlling it. As Marge is watching, Freddy's from the door. Freddy's arm smashes through the little glass window of the door, grabs her by the neck, and a model gets dragged through. And then you kind of hear the nursery rhyme that Freddy Krueger's 1-2 coming for you. Throw it. And that's the end of the first film. We've tried to surmise it as best because it's such a large film and it's such an iconic movie. There are many other sequences that I've forgotten that I think are incredible from it. The Freddy Krueger pushing himself through the wall as Nancy sleeps. Really great good. Practical effects using rubber and face and stuff like that. Great stuff. It is brilliant. It is a brilliant movie.
Really good film.
It really is. There's no real argument about whether or not the first one's we have to kind of get the first one out of the way. Yeah. Because there's no real... Nothing we're haven't heard before. No. The best I could say is that, do I think it's the best? It's not the best of the first films of the famous franchises. No. I will always prefer Halloween. The first Halloween is the best of the three. Yeah. I think Nightmare on Elm Street's better than the first Friday the 13th of those big three, of the big three. Yeah. Yeah, you know? But yeah, still an incredible movie. Even though like small criticism, I feel like you can go get over.
Yeah, and just enjoy it for what
it is. And just enjoy it for what it is. It's gory at times. It's hopeful. It's got a really strong lead character who really grows and grows as the movie goes on. Really impressive job. For all our criticisms of some of her acting, Heather Langenkamp by the end. It it made her famous, so to speak. Again, New Nightmare will make a very good, strong point about that. But just overall, the cast from Johnny Depp's not brief, because he didn't quite bit, original role, to Saxon, to the others, to the people that play Tina and Rod. It's great stuff.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. So I only really watched it first time as an adult. Like, so I've seen it as like a teenager. But I obviously seen from countdowns on films, I've seen like the iconic deaths and imagery from it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I kind of hoped that this standard would go through, but I'd obviously been prepared for it not being the case.
No, famously the standard drops. For a lot of people, the only films worth really mentioning is the first and the third.
Yeah.
Which is a crying shame. Because when I got to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. 1985, 1 year after. Building on a success quite quickly. In fact, a lot of the Nightmare movies that came out in the 80s, almost all of them did, in fact. That's quite important now. Directed by Jack Shoulder, written by David Kaskin. It stars Mark Patton, who, love Mark Patton, Kim Myers, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, and Robert Russler. Second installment, obviously, and follows a teenager, Jesse Walsh, who's having reoccurring nightmares about Freddy, who, after he moves into, guess who's home? Nancy's.
Hey.
Grossed 30 million on a budget of 3. Mixed reviews. Most people didn't really enjoy it. However, it has now become a cult classic. Mainly, we've got to talk about it. Mainly due to the reassessment of the film's homoerotic themes and subject material. This is something that I didn't really love when I first heard. Rewatching, I don't just admire, I accept it. I accept it. This is a very homoerotic movie. There are a lot of references to S&M, homosexuality, coming out, not being able to be the person you want to be, based upon family and stuff like that. The chemistry between Jesse and Grady is beautiful compared to Jesse and his would-be girlfriend. Like, that's fucking
there's more of a relationship with them two. Like, I see. I prefer them their relationship to him and Lisa's.
Absolutely. Coach Snyder, obviously, very heavy into S&M and his death as well. Even Jesse's late night visit to the same club. Freddy Krueger emerging from his body. It's there's a lot in it, and you can pick it apart in your own way. Some people may have gone over the top with it, I think. I don't think it was I don't think all of it was on purpose, necessarily. But I think it's fair to say they knew what they were doing. Like, do you know what I mean? They knew what they were doing. And one sequence will always stand out for me, and it's the dancing sequence in the bedroom. And you can say that's a teenage boy, but look at what he puts on. Look at the music he dances through. Look at the sexual moves he does. A lot of it is ass-based, and his penis. You know, is a lot of it that.
I think, during the 80s as well, how many films would focus, obviously, a lot of teenage films, it's just all boy and girl. Boy and girl going to the prom, hooking up, all this kind of thing. I don't know if you count on one hand how many films would mention young teenage gay relationships or young men having them kind of feelings.
It's certainly an intriguing watch for that. But ultimately, it is a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. We can't lose sight of that.
No.
Set 5 years after Freddy Krueger was apparently defeated by Nancy. The Walshes have moved into Thompson's former home. It is set in Nancy's home. Love the opening. Love it. It has got one of the funniest Nightmare on Elm Street jokes of the franchise. It actually opens on a bus, a school bus, a traditional yellow bus. And you can already tell it's got a hazy dream feel about it. And this is a different, it's weird. In Jesse's dreams, he's a lesser being than he is in real life.
Which is normally the opposite way around. When you dream. He's a lot more. He's quiet. He's shy. He's geeky looking. He looks like the kind of person that's going to school with a gun in his bag. Do you know what I mean? Like that. That's how he looks in this bus, and he's being teased by these two girls. The driver ends up speeding up, missing loads of buses. The girls freak out. The driver takes them on a wild trip through the desert, revealed to be Freddy Krueger. Stops on like a plateau, which then cracks apart, and they're balanced on some rocks. Freddy kind of reveals himself in a seat and starts approaching them. They can't get far back, because if they get back, the bus wobbles, as if it's going to fall into this pit. Lots of crap CGI of lightning and stuff like that. Jesse wakes up screaming. Mark Patton could scream, man. Did a good job.
But we don't see him screaming when he wakes up. It cuts to the parents and the young daughter downstairs in this wonderful looking kitchen. Really, they're all just relaxing. You hear the roar of Mark Patton, and the little girl says, "Mummy, Daddy?" Or is it just Mummy? Why can't Jesse wake up like normal people?
That's such a good line.
That is such a... And because it's not only is that funny, it tells you everything you need to know about Jesse.
Yeah.
This is so common.
Not first thing. Yeah, not first time for
The parents don't... No one bats an eyelid.
Yeah.
She just says that.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a common occurrence. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. A lot of it's attributed to the heat in the house. This house is very, very, very warm. And that's a reoccurring thing with some great effects later on.
Yeah.
At first, it's just warm. It will eventually heat up to the point where it's like a sauna. Jessie at school. We're introduced to the likes of Lisa.
Yep.
She's effectively the romantic interest of Jessie. It's the one we talked about having zero chemistry with.
I think she's into him more than the way around. Would you say?
Yeah. I 100% agree with you on that. 100%. She's way more into him than he is her, it seems. But it does imply he's shy to talk to her. Then we're also introduced to Grady, who initially seems like he's going to be the foil to Jessie's nerdiness as a jock and a bully.
They clash, yeah.
They clash. They have a fight in gym class outside. But Coach Snyder, who is... I'm going to find his name out. I've got to. Marshall Bell, who is... I love Marshall Bell. Love him. So I love him in his role. Coach Snyder is a bully. Like almost like a military... Like the kind of caricature you would see of a bullying gym teacher back in the 80s.
Yeah.
He makes them do push-ups, and this is where they start to become friends. These are the relationship we love.
Yeah.
Between Jesse and Grady. Absolutely, they have great chemistry. They become firm friends early on, even when they're taking the piss out of each other or like telling each other to shut up. It's always there. Yeah, they basically... And there's no good reason for them to become friends unless there was an attraction.
Yeah.
That's where it kind of comes from.
Yeah. I like that idea, yeah.
So Lisa, this is where you get then we're back. Jesse wants to go meet up with Lisa. Eventually, they arrange to meet up. But Clu Gallagher, who plays his father, wonderful Clu Gallagher, the late Clu Gallagher. What's it called? No, he's not dead. No, he's not dead. I've just deaded him.
Yeah,
he's not dead. He's old, but he's not dead. What's it called? Tells Jesse can't leave till he unpacks.
Yeah.
You go unpack now. This is where we get the infamous dancing sequence. Jesse puts on Elton John-esque glasses. Quite sparkly and big.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the Elton John style glasses. And dances. I don't know who it is playing.
No.
But it's a pop song.
I think it's, definitely pop song.
It's definitely a pop song.
Yeah, very camp, yeah.
And it's filmed in a way that he uses his butt. He's shaking his butt to close the drawer. And he grabs like a firecracker or the thing you'd pull. What do they call them?
Party
popper.
Yeah.
A party popper. And he's on the bed and he's basically making it that's his penis.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily homoerotic, that, because teenage boys and their dicks, you know, hand in hand, way. And he's doing like a jerking on the bed, thrusting, and as his mother and Lisa come in, it goes off.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny.
Yeah.
And they're a bit embarrassed. He's probably quite ashamed. And Lisa was like, "Look, I thought I'd come over and help you." While they're tidying up, she finds Nancy's diary at the top of in a wardrobe, a walk-in cupboard, and finds it. And in there, they read about her nightmares, Freddy Krueger and stuff like that. Jesse is obviously very uncomfortable because what's described is exactly what he's suffering from. The room just gets warmer and warmer and warmer, basically. That's a major thing. You get some great effects during one of the hot sequences where things are like melting. You see a record, an LP, just melting. Love that. Jesse's dreams get more intense, and this time he starts to interact with Freddy. And Freddy wants Jesse to kill for him. That's what he says, kill for me, and stuff like that. Jesse goes through the usual process of trying to stay awake. More problems end up happening at home. This is where we get the infamous birds dying.
Yep.
Clu Gallagher's father is one of the famous ones for me of the disbelieving dads.
Yeah.
Obviously, he doesn't want to hear a word that Jesse says.
Another level, though, isn't it?
This is another level because the birds go mental, attack, and basically one drops dead and the other explodes into a ball of flame. And first he dismisses it as the heat or bird rabies, and he blames Jesse. You set this up. What did he do? Stuff a firecracker up its arse?
Yeah. And it's the time scale. Like, this physically couldn't happen.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, And it's too much. For me, it's too much. It's one of the major down points of the movie.
You could say if an animal like just killed over, fair enough, from heat exhaustion, done. But to explode, no. It's just not going to happen.
Not happening at all. After a particularly bad night, Jesse, in almost like a dream state, but he's awake, ends up wandering the rainy streets and ends up at a gay bar, gay S&M bar.
Yeah.
Let's call it. And it is. Well, that's not us making it up. It pans across. It's lots and lots of couples of men. There's some kissing going on.
Yeah.
The S&M thing comes from the outfits more than anything else. The leather outfits. You see a lot of this because Jesse goes to order a drink. He fits them perfectly because he's basically half naked. He's wearing a wet shirt. It's open and all that.
Yeah.
But he's obviously intrigued. He goes to order a drink at the bar. Before he can drink it, Coach Snyder is there in leather.
Yeah.
And grabs his arm, and then we cut to Jesse being forced to do laps around the gym. This didn't sit right with me. I think it's too much for the character to be like, well, look, your domain has ended.
Yeah.
You don't get to drag me to school and make me do that.
No.
There is a fear of Snyder from a lot of the students. There is that much, so I guess that's the best you can do it. Snyder sends him to go shower off, and while Snyder's kind of like in his office, his gym office, all the balls and things start coming off the shelves, and everything starts trying to attack him, like dropping him, knock him down. He kind of avoids all of that, but gets towels wrapped around his wrists and dragged into the shower, stripped naked, and then initially whipped butt naked with the towels.
Yeah.
These are the things.
Yeah.
Jesse's in the shower and he's watching this with fear.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what's going on. And more showers come on and create this steam. And out of the steam comes Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Freddy kills Snyder with the claws, slashes his back. It's a good death. It's a good death. And then steps back into the steam. The steam dissipates and it's Jesse now, who happens to have Freddy's claw on his hand. Obviously terrified, horrified. We don't really see what happens next, except that he's picked up by the police because he's brought home.
Yeah.
He's brought home to his parents, naked by the police, and like they tell him that we found him walking the streets naked. Obviously very concerned parents. Clu Gallagher, his father, does the awesome fatherly thing of going, what drugs do you want?
Yeah.
It's a question that needs to be asked.
Yeah.
Or are you on drugs?
Yeah.
Not then. Right, let's talk. Right, you know, man, let's go upstairs, get you settled, get you some sleep, and we'll talk in the morning. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Not the best father. Sometimes, you know. Although I do believe he cares. I do believe he cares. You know. Sometime later, Lisa has investigated Fred Krueger, found out his past, and takes Jesse to where Freddy Krueger apparently worked, which is an abandoned factory, it's abandoned now. Wonderful location. Looks fantastic. Yeah, really does.
I really like that.
And then we're leading up to the real big event of the finale, which is Lisa's throwing a pool party. Her parents are cool, basically, sort of. Dad does the barbecue.
Got a bit of money.
Got a bit of money. Pool party, doing a barbecue, crap music. They go to bed, and the kids like wait.
There's some cool music going on.
Yeah, puts the cool music on. Start making out. Get out the beer. Lisa's mother keeps the dad in bed by sex, I guess. I guess. Jesse's at the party, but he's not having a good time at all. No. He's not having a good time at all. It's there, he kind of starts... Oh, is this where... Yeah, this is where they make out. Yeah. They make out, and he's kind of kissing her chest, but Freddy's tongue comes out instead. Yeah. So he kind of shoves it back in. Frightened, he runs off and goes to visit Grady. Yeah. Grady was grounded, so he couldn't visit the party. He breaks into Grady's room. Love the conversation between them here. Grady's in bed. Jesse admits to killing Snyder and all that. Grady takes it in his stride a little bit too much.
Yeah, you just did a bit more disbelief than that, I think.
Yeah, a little bit too much.
Craziness you told me.
But he's worried about him. You can always tell he's worried about him because Jesse asks Grady to watch him while he sleeps to see what happens. And Grady agrees, waits till he's asleep, and then sort of says, like, you know, I'm a sweet dreams, brother. I'm going to sleep too. Can't blame him for that. Yeah. Can't blame him for that at all. He has no reason to believe. He's not seeing any evidence or anything like that, except his friend in trouble. Yeah. So why not? That's when Freddy takes over. So Freddy's strength has grown to such an extent he seems to have the ability to take over Jesse's body. Yeah. And we get this interesting transformation where Freddy emerges from Jesse's body, like emerging from it. The effects are hit and miss. Some of them are cool. Freddy's face pushing at the chest.
Yeah.
But when it cuts to a wide-angle shot of Jesse's body,
Yes.
the animatronic model looks so bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like Jesse. It's not great. I understand how hard that was to do, so I'll give them a bit of a break.
Yeah.
But it's not great. Then Freddy kills Grady. We don't really see it. You actually kind of see, because the parents on the other side hearing Grady panic.
Yeah.
And we end up having Grady stabbed with Freddy's claws through the door, and you see on the other side. Freddy changes back to Jesse. Jesse sees himself in the mirror covered in blood. Grady dead, holding the claw, but in the mirror you can see Freddy laughing at him. And Jesse runs away. That's pretty much the end of Jesse if you think about it now.
Yeah.
Although, mind you, no one knew he was there. He sneaked in.
He sneaked in.
So there is that.
Yeah.
He goes back to Lisa, tells her what's going on. Lisa says, look, you're giving him strength for your terror, your fear and stuff like that. But Jesse can't quite put the two together, which is why, once again, Freddy returns. Emerges from, Lisa. He actually locks her away so he can't hurt her before than anything else. And then we get kind of one of the more non-Freddy stuff that you'll ever see.
Yeah.
It's very slasher-like,
Yeah.
which is Freddy just going to town and party goers.
Yeah.
It's very out of character. Nothing like this exists in the franchise elsewhere.
No, just a plot. Kind of just like.
Body count.
Yeah, just to kind of bomb up the body count. This is the first film. We're going to go heavier on the second film.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I got from that.
Yeah, it's an odd one. Her father, Lisa's father, comes down with a shotgun, but she stands in the way of Freddy because it's Jesse as well. And Freddy escapes by walking through the hedge that bursts into flame. Lisa knows he's going to the factory, so follows him there. When she arrives at the factory, we get some weird imagery. The dogs with the faces, the human faces.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like dreams attacking in real life because she's on a balcony or a walkway that collapses.
Yep.
But then when it's not collapsed, she faces off against Freddy. Asks Freddy to ask Jesse to fight through and stuff like that. He does speak Jesse's voice, but implies he can't. Lisa tells Jesse she loves him and kisses Freddy, which is apparently enough for Jesse to fight back. Freddy dies, combusts into ash, and from that kind of body, Jesse emerges alive kind of thing. It's a crap ending.
Yeah.
It's a crap ending, if I'm honest. Yeah. It's just, I love you. Oh, now so they've got the strength to come out. But I never bought it.
No,
I never bought it because they had fuck all chemistry.
Yeah, really bad. More like friends. She was more interested in him. So, yeah, I didn't think they should have gone with that down the end.
Yeah, it's just a bit like, is that it? Yeah. Love conquers all. Ugh. Yeah. Seen it, uninteresting.
Yeah.
But just like the first film, it ends in a dream sequence. Back on the bus, but this time all the people, Lisa, Jesse, her friend are all there. Jesse's a bit more confident in his bus. And then the same sort of situation happens with his nightmares. Bus is speeding up and all that. And he starts to panic, but Lisa calms him down. And then the bus stops and picks people up. Oh, it's not a nightmare at all. Until Freddy's arm bursts through the back of Lisa's friend. Yeah. And then you kind of see the bus spiral out of control again while Freddy laughs. Just like the nightmare. Characters that will never, ever be referenced again.
Yeah, that's it. They're done, aren't they?
Ever again. Just not even not relevant in any way. This is the most standalone of all of them.
Yeah, and it's set in the same environment, so that's a bit odd.
Well, here's the thing. It's the most standalone because the first film and the third film directly link into each other. The fourth film links into number 3. The fifth film links in to number 4. They follow along.
Yeah.
And even Freddy's Dead, you could argue to a certain degree, has links back to the original movie.
Yeah.
Freddy's Revenge, it is a standalone Freddy Krueger movie. There's nothing other than Nancy Thompson's house. Tell me what links that in.
That's it. Really, isn't it? Yeah, nothing else kind of, There's a very sort of tenuous link.
That's it.
Same house.
Just, remove Freddy Krueger from it.
It could be any other slasher
Could it
film.
it could be any other movie.
Yeah.
It could be anything. It's very, very odd in that sense. But it's not a bad film, is it?
No. I don't think it is.
Yeah?
But, I can see why you, like when we said before, like the first and third, people go to for the memorable scenes more than this one.
I'm a big fan of this movie. I am. Don't get me wrong. In the grand scheme of the franchise, it's certainly not up in the highest bar. But I'll watch this one happily over 4, 5, 6, easily.
Oh yeah, in that sense, yeah, I'll definitely watch this as part of the first 3, and then the rest of them can kind of like.
I think it's got some good ideas. I think it's got some really interesting, good ideas, particularly about how you want to bring Freddy back. I think it's got some good acting. And even now with all the homoerotic elements, I like them. I now want that movie to be redone gay.
Yeah, did pick what? So was it criticism for it?
No, it wasn't
No,
noticed.
people-
This isn't later as the cult following, as people have watched it and gone, this is pretty gay.
Yeah.
And gone from there.
But then obviously back then they couldn't have been as open as they wanted to.
Right, let's bring it up and read it, right? Film commentators have often remarked as film perceived homoerotic theme, claiming that subtext suggests Jesse is a repressed homosexual, which of course is never clarified in it. They note in particular the scenes where he encounters his gym teacher at a gay bar, his flight to a male friend's house after he attempts to make out with his girlfriend at a pool party. Further, actor Mark Patton, who plays Jesse, played a role so often written as a female in the subgenre, such as in the first film, that has become known as the final girl. At the time of its release, one publication referred to it as the gayest horror film ever, and it's become a cult film for gay audiences as of these days. On Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street legacy, David Chaskin refers to it as the 5 most unintentionally gay horror movies.
Oh no, the other ones are now.
Yeah.
Go look.
Mark Patton has claimed the film's gay subtext was increasingly emphasised through script rewrites as production progressed. It just became undeniable, he told BuzzFeed in 2016. I'm lying in bed and I'm in a paella and the candles are dripping and are bending like phalluses. And white wax is dripping all over it. It's like I'm at the centre of a bukkake video. He has felt betrayed since he knew the filmmakers were aware he was gay, but closeted.
Okay.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Mark Patton was gay, but
nudge.
closeted at the time.
Oh, so they pushed it to the limits.
They had considerable leverage over him and having him perform a role that combined with his performance as a gay teen in Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy D in the year before, led him to being typecast as gay. The role called attention to what he was trying to avoid discussing and would have been forestalled him getting any significant roles in 1980s Hollywood. Oh, we fucking sucked, man. God. In particular, Patton blames Chaskin, who he says claimed the subtext arose from how Patton played the part. I love when he uses the word subtext he played. Do you actually go to a freshman English course in high school? This is not subtext. In 2016, he said Chaskin sabotaged him. Nobody ever affected my confidence. That boys that threw rocks at me, nobody, but this man did. Chaskin denied for years that there was a gay subtext in his screenplay. Instead, at one point, he told a reporter that Patton had simply played the part too gay. The emotional stress of the film led Patton to leave acting shortly afterwards for a career in interior decorating.
It's a strange story, isn't it?
Chaskin has tried to reach out and apologise to Patton over the years, with limited success. He maintains that Patton's interpretations of Jesse were choices he made. I have to believe that he got it and that was how he decided to play to it. In 2010, Chaskin finally admitted it was a deliberate choice on his part. Homophobia was skyrocketing and I began to think about our core audience, adolescent boys, and how all this stuff might be trickling down into their psyches, he explained. My thought was that tapping into that angst would give an extra edge to the horror. So you denied it for how long? And caused so many issues with Patton?
Yeah.
In February 2010, England said the second Nightmare on Elm Street is obviously intended as a bisexual themed film. It was early 80s pre-AIDS paranoia. Jesse's wrestling with whether to come out or not, and his own sexual desires were manifested by Freddy. His friend is the object of his affection. That's all there in the film. We did it subtly because the casting of Mark Patton was intentional too. Because Mark was out and had done Come Back to Five and Dime Jimmy D and Johnny D. He's wrong, because Mark wasn't out.
Yeah.
What else we got? The rest of the cast and the crew had said they were unaware of any such themes at the time they made the film. But that series of creative decisions on the part of the director unintentionally brought Chaskin's theme to the forefront. And in an interview, Shoulder said, I simply didn't have the self-awareness to realise that any of this might be interpreted as gay. Fair enough. Now out, Mark Patton said, I don't think that the character of Jesse was originally written as a gay character. I think it's something that happened along the line by serendipity. Patton also wrote Jesse's Lost Journal about Jesse's life after the film and dealing with his homosexuality. I want to read that. Amazing. There you go, people. That's all from the words of people involved, from the actor to the directors to the producers. I think that speaks volumes about it. Sad to hear it caused so many issues, though.
Yeah, and just thinking about that in general, so like teenage boys, the whole like, even stereotypical things now is like boys have got to be boys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like the whole insult when you're in school, oh, it's so gay, that kind of thing, you know.
Well, I thought of there as well. I went to do interior decorating.
Yeah.
You know, as if like that's a fucking specific thing.
Yeah.
But it's a joke and a tease that has been made for years and years and years. A lot of what I read there I didn't know.
No.
I didn't know. I've never read it before. I love Mark Patton in this. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I really enjoy him. I'm really sad to hear that it was taken in such a way and it hurt him, and that he wasn't, because he wasn't out, he hadn't come out then, that was a real problem for him. It's a real shame. And I don't think making it, you would have realised. The final product put together, okay, suddenly a little more obvious. It's a shame.
Yeah, definitely shame on that one.
It's a shame. But ultimately, as a movie, as a horror movie goes, I think it's a good film. I think it's a good Nightmare on Elm Street film and thoroughly enjoyable. I think it's one that really, really got pillared because I had to follow up such an iconic movie.
Yeah,
and
that's a struggle.
is followed by one of the best Nightmare movies, which we're now going to talk about.
Yep.
It is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. 1987 this was released, directed by Chuck Russell. The story developed by Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner, obviously the third in it. It stars Heather Langenkamp is back, Patricia Arquette, Larry Fishburne. That is Lawrence Fishburne when he was billing himself as Larry Fishburne, although I would argue he doesn't star in this.
No.
Priscilla Pointer, Craig Wasson, and of course Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. He would be second billed in this.
Yeah.
The rise is already starting. 44.8 million on a budget of 4.
Okay, so the ratio,
3 films in a row, very successful.
Yeah.
This was a money maker.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's set 1 year after the events of the previous film. And it is Kristen Parker we're introduced to, which is Patricia
Arquette.
I was about to say Priscilla Presley.
Yeah.
That's a totally different person.
I like Patricia Arquette.
I like her in this. I like her in this. She basically has an opening dream sequence, as per always, where she's attacked by Freddy Krueger. She wakes up, goes to the bathroom, and this is where. So it should be pointed out that the opening sequence over it is her making a paper mache Nancy house.
I like that opening. It's good.
It's quite eerie, and she's making a house, and it's Nancy's house, which is a great touch.
Yeah.
So it shows the link already. So she has a dream. She's attacked by Krueger. She wakes up. She goes to the bathroom, and Krueger attacks her again. This is where the effects really ramp up.
Yeah.
As like his hands are the taps. They rise out with the pipes, and one of them has got a blaze, and it cuts her wrists. Her mother walks in from a night out, and it looks like she's holding a straight razor.
Yeah.
Looks like she had a suicide attempt.
Yeah.
She ends up at Western Hills Psychiatric Hospital, where Kristen is placed under the care of Dr. Neil Gordon. Kristen's not happy about being there, doesn't want to be there. She fights with the orderlies. They try to sedate her, but she's afraid of falling asleep, as are all the kids in this. It turns out they're all here for sleep disorder issues and problems in their past. She tries to fight them off. She cuts Lawrence Fishburne, Larry, his character, and she's got like a thing, and she's singing a 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And someone else finishes it as Nancy walks in. Yeah. This is an older living Heather Langenkamp, much better actress at this stage, a little bit more. She's got some poofy ass hair going on though.
Oh yeah, big 80s hair in this film.
Really, really do. Nancy walking in, and this calms Kristen down. Nancy cuddles her. Everyone's like, whoa. Yeah. Turns out Nancy's a psychiatrist now, and she understands these kids. And she instantly has great rapport, I guess, almost with Dr. Gordon, who will be a love interest almost to a degree.
Yeah.
More on his part, I think, than hers.
Yeah.
Like, he was a little infatuated with her, I'd say, wouldn't you?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, she's kind of very young, and I think he likes the energy, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, he's intrigued by her techniques because he's struggling to get through to these kids. All the doctors there are struggling to get through these kids. And he's a good man, Dr. Gordon. He's a kind man, and he wants to help them. That much is clear. Yeah. So Nancy walking in and immediately calming down this newbie, Kristen, is quite a whoa moment. Yeah. She's introduced to the rest of the cast. We have Philip, who is a sleepwalker. Love Philip. Great character. Kincaid from The Street.
Yeah.
A little bit of a caricature, but very likeable.
Yeah.
Very, very likeable. He's got violent tendencies. That's why he's there.
Yeah.
Jennifer. I feel bad for Jennifer. I feel bad for her. She's got these aspirations to be an actress. And as soon as she says it, like, I'm going to leave here and go Hollywood, you're like, no, you're going to be ate up and churned out by the machine.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Will, who's in a wheelchair after a failed suicide attempt. Taryn, one of the best, recovering drug addict. And Joey, who's been traumatized by such an event he cannot speak. There's our cast. We get there's a lot. This is a lot of character building. We get these sequences where they sit around and talk about it and reference them all having the same dream. Dr. Gordon and another woman nurse who's a little bit meaner, but heart's in the right place. Are constantly see it as a shared psychosis. That you're trying to atone for the things you did in the past, and you're sharing the psychosis of this character. Played wonderfully by everyone involved as they talk about him. Nancy's quick to agree to them. Like, she understands, which doesn't endear her to some of the doctors there, which is a bit of a problem for Nancy. Kristen is Freddie's target, basically. He's going for her. She's his target. Well, she's got power. And it happens in one of her dreams where she's being attacked by Freddie. As she pulls in Nancy, she's able to pull in Nancy. Seeing Nancy as a spirit, a kindred spirit who can help her, she pulls Nancy into her dream. And Nancy arrives to find this snakehead version of Freddy. The effect is fantastic.
I like Snakehead Freddy.
Eating Kristen. She grabs a bit of shattered glass because Nancy kind of falls out of a mirror and stabs him in the eye. It rears up, releases Kristen, spits her out. Love this. One of my favourite moments in Nightmare on Elm Street as he narrows his eyes, sees Nancy and says, "You." And it's like, ooh, it's on. It's on, you know. They escape. The dream, Kristen reveals it's something she's been able to do since she was younger, that she's kind of forgotten about, but she's coming back now. And thus starts the body count, really. Unfortunately, our very likeable cast have to be whittled down. It begins with Philip. Philip builds marionettes. Freddie becomes one when Philip falls asleep and cuts Philip via his wrists and his legs, rips the veins out and makes him sleepwalk almost. In a view of people, he's sleepwalking, but Freddie's controlling marionette. He takes him to a tower, cuts the strings, and Philip falls to his death.
It's quite nasty.
It's a wonderful, wonderful death. In our tier ranking, we put it very, very high because of the violence of it, the likability of Philip. The first death of the movie is quite an iconic one. And
pretty strong.
Yeah, it hurts the group very, very badly, but it doesn't stop there. It actually picks up steam quite quickly as Jennifer is next on Freddie's hit list. One of the more iconic ones. She's watching TV, trying to stay awake, uses cigarette burns to burn her arm. She falls asleep anyway. The TV show she's watching has Freddy Krueger as a host, killing an actress. I believe it's Greta Garbo. His head rises out of the TV. Metal arms come out. He grabs Jennifer, holds her up, smashes her face in the TV after saying, what iconic line, Lou?
Welcome to primetime, bitch.
Such an iconic line. Welcome to primetime, bitch. Yes, it really, really is. They find her dead, suspended in the air with her face smashed in. How the fuck you explain that one?
Yeah.
Because not even like a chair underneath.
That's what he said, not like you stepped up into it.
Yeah.
And the sheer force of it. But yeah, it's his 80s horror. Oh God, she killed herself. Okay. Yeah.
2 dead.
Yep, already.
And
session as well.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Is in group, the rest kind of see them all as targets. They know, some try to play it off. Taryn says they were too weak and stuff like that, and they committed suicide and all that. Well, Nancy reveals to them what she knows about them, that they are the last surviving children of the people who killed Freddy Krueger. That's who they all are, basically. Their parents are the last of the, were responsible for Freddy Krueger's burning, and they are the last of the children. Not the last children of Elm Street, just the last of the children of that. So they believe Nancy. They all happily believe in Nancy. Even Dr. Gordon, who's initially skeptical, is willing to hear. I think he even says something like, "My method isn't working. Two have died. This isn't working. What can you do?" Nancy wants to prescribe a drug that's a dream suppressor. Which is not. I guess it's not gone for the FDA. There's something about it that means it's not accepted yet. And that he stakes his reputation on it to the head nurse. Look, we'll do it, and if it goes wrong, it's my reputation. And she says, okay, it's on you.
Bold move.
He's willing. He's encouraged by Nancy enough to do it. They decide to try group hypnosis to see if they can do a shared dream. And in that, discover their dream pal, which they do. There's a bit of a crap effect where one of those swinging balls that...
Cat's crate.
Whatever it does, it comes off and floats. Doesn't look great, but it's forgivable. In this classroom, they all realise they're in their dream, and they test out their powers. We get a number of different things, from Kincaid being able to super strong, crushes a chair. Taryn, I'm bad and beautiful in my dreams. Love her. Love her. Big old punk ass hairstyle.
Yeah, she did good.
Let's call it, Will can walk, and he's the wizard master, and so on. Yeah. It's very light-hearted, silly. It's fun. Everyone's laughing, having fun. Joey, this is... So earlier on, it's implied Joey, who isn't able to speak, has the hots for a nurse.
Yeah.
But there's nothing coming back there. She's working.
Yeah.
While in this dream sequence, he sees her outside, and she gestures for him to follow.
Yeah.
She leads him to a room where she talks to him and basically tells him, hey man, I've always really liked you. It's that shit.
Yeah.
Starts taking some of her clothes. You get some boobs if that's your jam. Joey's like, ugh. Get used to horny Joey. Yeah. It's worse in the next film. But it turns out to be Freddy as he ties him up using his tongue. He sort of shoots it out of his mouth. Yeah. Reveals himself to Freddy. The bed collapses and Joey's hanging over like a pit of hell. Nothing happens there going forward. Out of the dream, it's revealed that Joey's in a coma now. Yeah. And what they did is blamed. So both Nancy and Dr. Gordon are effectively kicked out. Yeah. You staked your reputation on this, you failed. She's come in, now a student. 2 students have died.
One's in a coma.
2 patients have died. Yeah. One's in a coma.
Yeah.
And you're both out the fucking door. Yeah. Neil starts to run into a nun, Sister Mary Helena. He sees her a few times during funerals, sort of standing in the background, eventually talks to her and follows her, and she reveals Freddy's real past. Freddy is the son of a nun who, and this is horrible, really is, who got locked in overnight, or over a period of time, with an asylum of maniacs. Yeah. Son of 100 maniacs is Freddy Krueger. She was obviously raped and 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 raped. Yeah. It is not a very, very nice thing.
No, it's a very, very, very dark element. I know the whole idea is not a bright film, but that's just extra layer.
It's an extra layer of horribleness, isn't it? Yeah. It really fucking is. But she also reveals that his bones need to be laid to rest to get rid of him once and for all. Lay his bones to rest, and we will get rid of him. Who might know where his bones are? Well, Nancy's mother's dead, but who's still alive? Oh yes, he's back.
Your favourite.
It's John Saxon. Donald. Donald was his name. He is security now. I love they don't even say it. It's the outfit he's wearing. Yeah. He's an alcoholic, clearly. He's drunk at a bar. He's wearing a security outfit. Obviously, when your town has that many problems, you're probably not going to keep your job.
Nope.
Definitely that he did.
Yeah.
And he's a dick. He's a dick. When anyone says to you, friend, in the tone he does, he ain't your friend.
Nope.
I don't think I was talking to you, friend. He says to Dr. Neil Gordon. Yeah. And the tone, you're just like...
Ouch, that burns.
I think, Nancy's just like, they've been estranged for many years. They're not talking, and Nancy sees it as a waste of time. He doesn't want to talk to her. No. He's like, don't care, don't want to know, leave me to my drink. And that's when Nancy leaves, and Dr. Gordon's like, look, let me talk to him. Yeah. And Dr. Gordon manages to convince him, more in a threatening kind of way than anything else, kind of stands up to him. Great acting between the pair, great relationship, great chemistry. In Nancy's at home, Nancy hears Kirsten calling out for her. Yeah. That Kirsten's going to be sedated. She's been locked in and she's been injected, so she's going to go to sleep, meaning she's going to be and when you're sedated, waking up is not such an easy thing. She'll be at Freddy's mercy. Yeah. So the film splits into 2 parts effectively here. We have Dr. Gordon and Donald, Nancy's father, going to find Freddy's bones because he knows where they are. Yeah. And then we have the second part where Nancy and the remaining kids are going to do the group hypnosis to go get Kirsten and stop Freddy. That's what the plan is. Yeah. It goes wrong immediately, as they're all immediately separated by Freddy and picked off one by one. Freddy almost prepared for this, I guess, if you're to a certain degree, which is fantastic to see him using his brain. Taron is killed in the famous needle fingers bit and the sucky holes. Will is killed like a chump, one of the worst deaths in the movie, with lightning. And then we've got like Kristen, Nancy, and Kincaid find each other. Kincaid smashes through a wall and finds almost like a part boiler room, part car graveyard, which is similar to where Donald and all them are going to be. And they find Joey as well in that world, tied up. Freddy starts to unwind. Joey almost falls, but is saved last minute and pulled up by Nancy, who's then pulled up by Kincaid. But Freddy is powerful, man. Here's the problem at this point. He's so powerful because of all of those shared thoughts about him. So he's almost undefeatable. In the real world, Freddy's remains are in the centre of a car graveyard, a dump yard, and in the boot of a Buick. Great sequence again. I love how Saxon just doesn't want to know. And even tries to drive away, but the Dr. Gordon has the keys. They dig and find his bones, and the plan is to just use some holy water, which Gordon had picked up, and a cross earlier on. Freddy seems to be able to sense that his remains have been found, so transfers himself and takes possession of his skeleton body in a kind of stop-motion Jason and the Argonauts way. Unfortunately, this is where John Saxon dies. He gets stabbed by the claw and then thrown into the cars, and that gets stabbed with a spiky thing. Not great.
Yeah, not great way for him to go.
No, but there you go. It had to be. And he attacks and I guess thinks he kills Dr. Gordon, Neil, but he isn't dead. What's it called? This is where Freddy then drops his bones down. Sort of does a weird celebratory roar. And then collapses and returns back to the dream world. This is where Joey reveals his power. He has the ability to shout really loud, effectively, which dismisses Freddy for a short while. No, this is the hallway mirror part. I forgot a bit there. No. So they're walking through like a hallway of mirrors, and all these different Freddys are grabbing them and sucking them into mirrors. They're pulling them all individually in the mirrors. Joey's panicking, and this is where he shouts. And it's a great effect as all the mirrors shatter and everyone falls out of their one. Like the whole stunt must have been really difficult to do.
Well choreographed, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I guess it must have been. You're leaning on this fake glass. And when we shatter it, you're all going to fall out. Like, it looks good. It looks very, very good. And it seems like that's, like, for some reason, even Nancy's like, oh, yeah, he's been defeated kind of thing. Which is a bit strange. Like,
yeah, come on now.
Like, why
Wait
then?
until the end,
Yeah. Turns out we then get John Saxon again. Donald appears as a ghost almost. Tells her that he doesn't tell her he's dead, but he tells her he's crossed over. And that he's sorry, and he gives her a hug, but it's revealed to be Freddy. Freddy stabs Nancy, and he's about to kill Kristen, but Nancy, in her dying throes, grabs his own hand and stabs him with his glove. Meanwhile, Neil, Dr. Gordon, has woken up and, bloodied and all that, is consecrating the ground that Freddy's bones are lying in, which creates this sort of, in the dream world, like the splashes are appearing on Freddy's dream body and bursting in a flame, like that kind of thing.
That looked good. I like that.
Yeah, and that effectively seems to destroy Freddy. Again, ending, done. You finished the fucking franchise. Would have been perfectly fine to end there, really. That's Nancy dies. Nancy dies, and that's it, really. At Nancy's funeral, Dr. Gordon is at the funeral, and he sees the nun again. Follows her, and this time sees that she leads him to a grave, which is Amanda Kruger, which is the nun, and it reveals that the nun he was talking to was Amanda Kruger, the same nun that gave birth to Freddy Krueger, the one that was with the 100 Maniacs. And as he goes to sleep that night, for once we don't get an end dream sequence, but we do get some of that again, hints at something for the future. As the miniature of Nancy's house, a light comes in the window. And that's how the film ends.
Which should have been it.
Could have been it. Should have been it, really.
It was a good way of doing it. So Freddy's bones are at peace. That's done. You kind of dealt with another like little side story of having the nun being the mother. And obviously trying to get kind of helping him to put him to rest. I think it should have finished there.
So I mean, there's a reason why everybody loves Dream Warriors almost. as much as the first, if not better. It's so commonly seen as one of the favourite fucking ones. And I think a lot of that is because it's a bit more action-packed.
Inventive, yeah.
Inventive, yeah. There's a bit more invention to the kills, certainly is, and it's all character-based as well. It's the first time we kind of get these kind of, I have this problem, this is how I'm going to die, or it's going to be related to that in some way, but not in your face, because the characters are fleshed out.
And they're vulnerable.
Yes, they're vulnerable.
Even more so than the previous two films. Because they're teenagers, but a lot of them teenagers are in
happy homes.
Comfortable houses, you know.
To a degree, yeah.
You see majority of parents are nice to them. Whereas here, even Kirsten with money, she's not exactly happy.
It implies that her mother doesn't really, they don't get out on, and her mother's out partying, and there's an absentee father. So there are elements of that. But yeah, it's certainly up there as one of the best of the franchise. Yeah, which definitely is not... Well, that's the last time we're going to say that, really. It's the last time we're going to say that. It's all downhill. Mostly here. There is a high point-ish to come. We'll get to that. We'll go next into the fourth movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, 1988. Directed by Rennie Harlan and stars Robert Englund, Lisa Wilcox and Danny Hassel, as well as people like Tuesday Night.
That name kills me. Yeah,
so basically this film, again, like the other, pretty successful. Budget of 6.5 million, 49.4 million at the domestic box office.
Turnover, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're all money makers. There's a reason why these franchises, all of them, live. You don't get to 7, 8, 9, 10 in the case of Friday the 13th and beyond if you're not making money.
Yeah. But then thinking back into it, 80s cinema culture, 80s horror culture, this coming out in the summertime. So imagine this in the summertime, 1988. You're going to go see it. There's no internet for teaser trailers or you find everything about it beforehand. It's literally, you just have a couple of trailers and you're watching it. So
it's easy in 2020 to kind of reflect and forget almost how much of a phenomenon Freddy Krueger was. I think Wes Craven's New Nightmare shows that the best it possibly could be. When I was a kid, everybody was singing you could hear that. You'd hear that 1, 2, Freddy's come up for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was a phenomenon. It really, really was. But not many people remember these films, and there's a good reason why.
Yeah.
So, set in 1988, a year after the events of the previous films, we have some returning characters. We have Kincaid, Joey, and Kristen. However, Kristen is no longer played by who she was played. Not Priscilla Presley, as I keep saying. This time she's played by Tuesday Night.
No, Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, but this time,
Sorry, I'm so keen on
Patricia Arquette obviously played it in Dream Warriors. In Dream Master, Tuesday Night would take over the role, which is a real problem. Because Tuesday Night is nowhere the actress that Patricia Arquette is.
Patricia Arquette had a certain hardness to her as well.
While being very innocent looking face.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. So I found it very hard to piece them together.
You wouldn't accept that and kept saying that's Kristen too.
Yeah.
And I get it. I do get it because as well, Tuesday Night visually is so different looking. Yeah. She's a round face. Her, her eyes are big, very manga-like. It doesn't work.
No.
It really doesn't work. But the filmmakers seem to know that, and they want to get rid of her.
Yeah.
The surviving members of the last film. They've been released from the hospital. They're living their lives as normal teenagers now, going to school, doing all the things kids do. Normal in movie terms.
Yeah.
However, Kristen can't quite let the whole Freddy thing go, believing he will eventually come back, so she consistently dreams about him. Which brings us to something that drives me nuts in these films, which is the fact that whenever she dreams, she ends up at Nancy's house, which has become the de facto Freddy Krueger house. Now, I don't know why they did this, where this came from, where this idea... I know they wanted to have something that grounded the films in something that you could reference in the first. Stick to the fucking boiler room then. Yeah. Stick to the fucking boiler room then. Because that's Nancy's house. Freddy didn't die there. He wasn't killed there. But when Kristen first visits the house at the beginning of this film, it's all creaky floorboards and wrecked and messy and all that. And you got little kid, innocent girls on tricycles going, oh, he killed me back. Oh, and it's just wait, is this his home now?
Yeah, that I found that quite confusing, and I kept on thinking that Freddie was killed in the boiler room
No.
of Nancy's house, which would have made more of a tenuous link to that house.
I guess.
If you did it that way, because that could have made sense. I don't know why you couldn't.
It's like Freddie moved in later on.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like Freddie moved in because she ends up calling Kincaid and Joey in using her power. They're not happy about being there. They have a go at her, telling her that, you're going to bring Freddie back and all that. And to prove to her that Freddie's gone, they touch the boiler in the basement, which is ice cold. Yeah. Again, why does that matter? This ain't his home.
Yeah.
It's like he fucking moved in.
Yeah.
He got them. It was, so many people had died in it. Nancy's mother and Marge had died in it. So Freddie got it super fucking cheap.
Yeah.
On the market, fixer-upper, but he's too lazy to do it, and he's moved in. Brought his kids with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're tricycling around the hallways singing songs.
I've just got an image of like a Freddy Krueger trying to do like a roller painting now.
Yeah. Moving van in. Come on, kids. This is the new home. We'll have a great time here. And then he gets fucking defeated in the last movie, so he can't look after his children.
Yeah.
Working dad. They wake up when Kristen also brought in Kincaid's dog, which wakes up all the characters in their homes. This is, I believe, the only reason they showed the dog in this scene is because it needs to be used later on.
Yeah.
At school, they confront Kristen. They're really, really not happy about it. And again, it's like, stop fucking dreaming about Freddy, basically.
Yeah. Let it lie.
They're kind of annoying. Kincaid and Joey are kind of annoying. Joey was better when he couldn't talk.
Yeah, mute.
Yeah, because he had a moat with his eyes. Do you remember the scene in Dream Warriors when he's running in the hallway to wake everybody up as Philip is balancing and he's banging on the thing with the nurse and he's pointing and he can't explain the words. He grabs the train, he's running down. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. This Joey, other than being really horny and complaining,
can't shut him up.
But Kristen meets up with her new friends. We have her boyfriend, Rick, played by Andreas Jones. Love Rick, wonderful character, really likeable, but has the distinction of having one of the worst deaths in the series. We will get to that. Rick's sister Alice, played by Lisa Wilcox, very, very strong, likeable, and would take over the lead role of this movie halfway through and be the lead of the next movie too. We have Sheila Toy Newkirk, smart geek who's got asthma. Yeah. There's a hint. And Debbie, played by Brooke Thesis. Bit of a badass, bit of a tough girl, but doesn't like bugs. This is the first film where they will basically make characters' fears their development almost. It's not the worst for it. These characters have some more to them. Yeah. The next one's worse, and we'll get to Freddy's dead. But those two at the end, I think it's those two more than anything else. Sheila and Debbie are the two that stand out the most and all that. Which is strange because one of them, Debbie, has one of the best death sequences. Definitely. This film has one of the worst and the best in the same movie. Incredible. So basically, Kristen's worried about bringing Freddy back, so starts to slip to her waist, trying to stay awake and stuff like that. And she's fighting to stay awake, but that night Kincaid ends up falling asleep and he wakes up in the junkyard where Freddy's bones were buried in the last movie. Freddy is resurrected by dog pee. This has got to be the worst one. I don't even know what they were thinking. Does urine unconsecrated ground? Is that it?
No, there could have been other ways of doing it.
I just thought, have them all keep dreaming about him. And because Kincaid's got him in mind, that's how he's resurrected, thinking about him.
Or someone doing some building work on the junkyard.
Maybe, yeah.
Like clearing it. And, do you know, there's other ways of, doing it. Like, you create the law, but at least make it a bit more believable than a dog. Because it's a junkyard. All kinds of animals could have happened beforehand. So
it doesn't make any sense. The fact that the dog's for that.
It's very stupid.
Kincaid tries to ask Kristen for help, but Kristen is awake, which is a problem, so he hasn't got help. Freddy kills him. In with that, Kincaid's out.
Done.
Then we get Joey, who's at home, horny Joey, still horny, watching MTV, looking at swimsuit models in a magazine. He's on a waterbed and feels something touching him underneath, so gets off and sees one of the models is naked in the water, kind of, He's like, sweet, this isn't weird.
No, not
at
really at
all.
all.
Even if it's a dream, that's a weird dream. So he's like, fucking Joey. Does my head in.
I found the waterbed more unusual. I was like, who sleeps in a waterbed? Like, maybe it's just because I'm in my 30s now. I'm thinking, that must be a killer in your back. But
Freddy.
It's good imagery. So
It's
I'm
good
seeing why
imagery.
They picked the waterbed because it moves quite well and you can backlight and it looks quite good.
It is.
Yeah.
But it is Freddy who bursts out, drags Joey in, drowns Joey. Joey's found the next day by his mother in the bed, like it's sealed up again, and he's drowned. Bye-bye, Joey. Kristen at school discovers that Joey and Kincaid aren't there, panics, ends up knocking herself out, where she's then confronted by Freddy, played by Robert England, as himself. Like, it's Robert England in drag, basically. He's a school nurse, and it's Robert England, not Freddy, would make up bad lipstick and, he doesn't look good at all.
Pretty.
No, he's not pretty woman. It's Freddy. Kristen wakes up, realizes Kincaid and Joey are dead, finds out they're dead. She tells Rick, Alice, and Alice is crushed. So Alice works at a diner. As we get a bit more about Alice, and she's got a crush on a good-looking jock kind of guy called Dan, played by Danny Hassel. Big fan of Dan. Big fan of Dan as a character. Because it's not what you expect straight away. He's nice to Alice. He's nice to her. She's the usual gormless.
Yeah.
He's so pretty. Will
he talk to me?
Will he talk to me? I can't talk to him, even though I'm perfectly normal looking as well. It's not like she's missing half a face and 3 legs. But yeah, so Kristen's on her own, but figures she can defeat Freddy again. But unfortunately, her mother, worried about Kristen slipping back to the old ways, has put sleeping pills in her food.
That's healthy.
Yeah, that's not great, that. Kristen tries to kind of get upstairs in time, collapses in her bedroom, and ends up in a dream, of course. That's what happens. She fights Freddy. Freddy overpowers her. They end up in in Nancy's home, his home. I guess we're going to start calling it now. And he reveals to her that she's the last of the Elm Street children. And he needs her to bring another person in so he can now have a new direction to go.
Yeah.
If Kristen really wanted to protect the world,
she'd die with him.
Kill yourself.
Yeah, that's what I meant. She'd die and let the legend die with her.
Yeah, because it would. Because if that's it, there's nowhere Freddy goes, it dies with her. No one else knows about him. He will be forgotten about. It would be an acceptable decision on her part.
Until the next film.
But, yeah, until the next film. To find some way to resurrect him. This film would have been about 20 minutes long then. But, of course, Kristen doesn't. He manages to go there, calling Alice in. Alice ends up in a dream, sees Freddy. Freddy kills Kristen, who ends up dying in real life in her home by her bedroom going on fire. Looks like a bad accident and partially to blame for her mother for drugging her. When Alice wakes up, she knows something's wrong. Her and Rick go to Kristen's house, and that's where they discover the house is on fire. So that's it. The Dream Warriors are out. All done. Now we've got Alice, who has grabbed or been given Kristen's power, ability to bring people into her dreams. This is a thing about this movie. It is like Pokemon cards. She's got to collect them all.
Yeah.
And I don't love it.
No.
I don't love it at all, particularly later scenes. Alice ends up falling asleep in class and brings Sheila into her dreams. Forgiven because she doesn't even know what she's doing. Freddy's a school teacher. This is where Sheila dies. Sheila gets to die by an asthmatic attack as Freddy makes out with her.
Yeah.
You want to suck face? He says something like that. That's his pun. You want to suck face? And he sucks the life out of her. You sort of see her body drying up like a husk, which is a cool,
it's a cool effect. I liked it.
In the actual class, she's just choking and drops dead from that. That's something as well that Alice then gets. It's like it's not so much their powers as well. It's like their personalities, elements of them that become, that they're either good at, and she becomes smarter when Sheila dies and stuff like that. With that dead though, everyone's a bit more open to believing things now as well. Debbie, Dan, she's now talking to Dan. He's game for it and stuff like that. But her father is a bit of a problem. Father, don't know, he's a bit of a dick in this movie. It's weird because a lot of these characters cross over the next and are different in the next movie. Her father's a lot more likeable in the next movie. But in this one, he's a dick towards Alice and Dan. Like, he demands his dinner to be ready by Alice and it has to be good. Not Dan, sorry, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick does his best to avoid him most of the time while practicing his karate. We'll get to that. But first, we have to talk about the best. So we have got characters to kill off. We've already lost, what's her face? Sheila. Now it's time for Debbie. Oh, mate.
I liked.
But it's one of the best.
Yeah.
It's one of the best for effects alone. So Debbie is weightlifting at home and Freddy appears above her to spot her effectively. But he pushes her arms she's holding it like that. So he pushes it down. Pushes it down and until it snaps her arms off there. And she sort of stands up and she's screaming and her arms are all floppy.
It's good effect.
Yeah, it's a good effect. They end up falling off like rubber, almost like rubber coverings falling off to reveal that she's got cockroach arms. And then like cockroach bits come out of her shoulders and knees. She starts to run like down a hallway. And it's like a brightly lit, weird like warehouse looking thing. She's running down it being chased by Freddy and she's made like her arms all cockroachy and stuff. And she runs into a sort of big room area where there's all these other cockroaches, stuck in the glue. It's a roach motel, basically. If you know what a roach motel is, it's a roach trap. Which has this like glue in it that roaches go in to feed or whatever and get stuck. And then they die. And she's stuck in that. And she's trying to move through it. And she falls. And she falls face down into it. And she's trying to pull herself off it, and it rips her face off to reveal a roach face. All of the rest of her comes off, and she's just a cockroach. And he gets kind of thing where it's like being moved, and it's Freddy holding it. You see him walking around holding it. He shakes it a few times, looks through the eye hole, and says something like, "Once you check in, you never check out," and then crushes it, and his goo comes out. It's excellent.
Yeah, it's really good.
The practical effects make up for the roach look, the glue ripping her face off.
Yeah, top quality.
Yeah, and the Freddy end, it's just like, it's over the top, but it is one of those good over the top ones. Worth watching just for that alone, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. Alongside this, but during the same sort of, let's kill some characters off, Rick also gets killed. Already mentioned Rick likes karate. He ends up falling asleep and having a dream. He's at a dojo, and he karate fights Freddy Krueger. It is as shit as it sounds. It is a shit. Obviously, he loses. At first, of course, he's winning. Because this, for us as watchers, this is one of the biggest problems with these films. What's the point? What are we buying into here? That he's going to karate kick Freddy Krueger?
Yeah.
The guy that was just resurrected by piss?
Yeah, it just really weakens the...
Like, what's the point of buying into any of these times that he's going to die? And having this guy karate with over-the-top sound effects, and there's like Freddy staggering, and he's like, oh, like he's getting kicked, and we're like, oh my God, Rick's going to win, as if.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's fine. It's supposed to be about the death. There isn't one. It's shit. It's not a good death. There isn't gore, it's not bloody, it's karate fight. As Freddy starts karate fighting back.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rick, man, you're a nice character, but your death is the worst. So at this point, Alice has collected brains, the temper of Debbie, the karate fighting skills of Rick, and Freddy kind of like, she's so tired he appears to remember her life. She tries to ram him with a car, with Dan in the car. Dan gets hurt and sent to hospital. And Alice is basically, all right, I'm up for fighting Freddy. I'm ready. Like, you get like a fucking... what would you call it? A montage of her getting ready? So like she's putting on her friend's stuff on,
Although it was a completely different wristband.
Okay.
To the original. I remember at first it was like a nice little gentle spiky cone spike on the wristband. When she puts it on later on, it's some big kind of like one that you get banned from wearing at a festival because it's like big black metal spikes on it.
Oh, it is. You're right. You're right.
It was like, that's not the same. Is it like morphed into something more powerful? But yeah, he's probably like, we need a montage.
Yeah.
She's putting all stuff on.
Yeah, because there's a thing about how like she doesn't like to look at herself, and when she's been taking her friend's pictures off the mirror, it's slowly revealing more of her face. That would have been cool with a deeper character, but it's not for this film.
Yeah.
In that montage scene of her putting her friend's stuff on, and she gets like her Rick's dojo headband and like wraps it around in the nunchucks. It's a really cheesy scene, but this film has more than that. There's an earlier scene where her and Rick, he's teaching her how to punch and go hiya and stuff like that, and it's cringing.
in an 80s teenage comedy film would have been fine, but it's a horror film,
Mm-hmm.
so like you've lost the complete horror element when you go into that realm.
And it doesn't. It's like trying to make him be more likable, but it just comes across cheesy, so
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Alice is worried that Dan, because he's going to have surgery made, obviously he's going to be going under, which means Freddy can attack him. So she ends up going into Dan's dream, basically, to help him out. They find themselves in an old church. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Something about religion related to Amanda Kruger and all that stuff, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It made more sense in the next film than this one. But Dan gets injured, and in real life, it appears like surgeons cut an artery. So end up waking him up, and Dan gets removed from the dream, leaving Alice alone to face Freddy. Of course, Freddy has the upper hand for like a minute. But what a surprise, Alice and her collection of friends' powers are able to defeat Freddy. Well, that and a nursery rhyme. Some nursery rhyme about the Dream Master, which apparently forces Freddy to face his own reflection. And he reveals he reveals his chest, which has got like these souls, the faces and all that kind of thing. Which is kind of cool looking. It's a cool effect. But they revolt and start ripping out of him, tears him apart. I like this final effect ending. The whole like being pinned up against the wall as the soul's coming out the back of his head. It's practical effects. Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. All the friends escape. All the souls escape, and obviously Freddy's body is a husk and left to die. That's Freddy dead again. Yeah. Again. What's it called? We get a kind of hint, of course. We can't not do it. Where they're on a date. Dan and Alice have been dating for a while now. They toss a coin into a fountain. Alice sees Freddy's reflection in the water for whatever reason. And Dan asks her what she wished for, and she doesn't answer. End of the film.
Wow.
What do you reckon?
It's poor. There's a couple of good bits, but yeah, overall, just a weak way of bringing Freddy back. Like really, just not thought out well at all.
Yeah.
Like, oh Lord, you've got all the kind of imagination that comes with dreams, and you couldn't find a better way of getting him back. That's what annoyed me the most, I thought.
There is elements of a good story here. There is elements of a logical story progressing tale from the last movie into this. I don't dislike the idea of killing off the last of the ones and moving on to a new set of characters.
Yeah.
That's fine. The problem is they clearly didn't know how to do certain things. The most obvious being they didn't know how to bring Freddy back. Yeah. So they went with something that was just stupid. Yeah. They couldn't get, what's her face? Why do I keep forgetting her name? Priscilla Presley.
Patricia Arquette.
Patricia Arquette back. That was a problem. Because I wonder if they would have killed off Kristen had they been able to keep her in the franchise. I reckon you might have done, or at least for this film anyway. So you've already got that. The moving towards Alice and all that works really well. The problem is it then reverts to the same things we've seen before. Lead girl, final girl, fights Freddy, finds some hidden power, able to defeat him temporarily. This is what this is. In this, it's the collection of friends' powers, which it's not the worst idea. It's just, I don't see how any of that really matters when it comes down to the Dream Master rhyme. Yeah. Who cares if you've got your brother's power to hi-ya kick him in the chest? We already know that's pointless. Yeah. It's irrelevant. Do something stuff like this, and it just ends up feeling so flat. So, is that it? And even things that you normally want to get excited about, good effects, good gore, you just end up forgetting about it and focusing on what's bad about it. The best we can go is it's got one of the best death sequences of the movie. Yeah. Its cast isn't horrible. It's not the worst of the franchise. No. But it's a hard one to recommend.
Definitely. I wouldn't go, oh yeah, watch number 5 or number 4. You'd be like, no.
No.
Avoid it.
Which brings us to number 5, as you've now said it. It is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, 1989. See, 5 of them. 5 of them in
5 years.
5 years.
84. Maybe a couple of...
Maybe 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
But it was quick. Directed by Stephen Hopkins and written by Leslie Bowen. It stars Lisa Wilcox back as Alice, and of course Robert Englund reprising his role as Freddy Krueger. This is well, better or worse. I mean, it's on par because it shares so much with it, but it does a few things better. One of the things that's well interesting, this is one of the last slasher movies released in the 1980s.
Oh, cool, used to 89, yeah. Right to the end.
However, the writing was on the wall. So obviously, as we've been talking across this very long video, we have noted how much money has been made by the franchise. Sometimes almost 50, like on a budget of 5 million, earning 50 back. Yeah. Huge amount. Yeah. 5 times its number sometimes. On a budget of 8 million, this grossed 22.1. It is still money earned, but that is a big drop. Yeah. That is a big drop from, what was it, 48 in the last one?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So really, the writing's on the wall for this franchise. Yeah. Set in June 1899, it's a year after the previous film. The movie opens with credits as we get a very romantically done sex scene between two characters we don't know who are, but we will in a short while. As the morning after, it is revealed to be Alice and Dan, our two returning characters. Who are now together. They banged the night before. Yeah. Alice goes to have a shower. No sign of Freddy Krueger. But in the shower, she ends up having a vision. Like, randomly having a vision, and now she's a nun. Yeah. In an asylum. You see the name tags Amanda Krueger. So we're linking back to the third film. See what I mean about number 2 earlier on, about being how standalone it is?
Yeah, like...
Even this is linking back to the third film. Yeah. Basically, we're seeing... Alice is playing Amanda Krueger. She's Amanda Krueger, and we're seeing what happened that night she got locked in. Shitty guard behaviour, not counting the amount of inmates, and for some reason they're allowed to roam free, and she's just wandering amongst them. The door's closed, she's locked in.
No, that would happen. That would not happen.
No, God. Well, I mean,
I would have it where maybe where doors failed or something like that, because it just seemed too free and easy for how dangerous these people were.
Now, I'm going to be gross here. So, obviously, we know this. It's dark, it's horrible, but she's raped a lot by these inmates, effectively having their fun with her. One of those inmates had the dominant genes. Because in a brief clip, as she's walking amongst inmates, you can see one of those inmates is Robert Englund. Yeah. Which I thought was quite funny. He won out.
Yeah, his
genes won out. Yeah, big time, yeah. But not, it's still very dark. That whole Son of 100 Maniacs is dark as fuck. I don't like the fact when the doors close, all the inmates sort of just turn to look at her.
Yeah, and kind of
your imagination fills in the blanks, people. It does.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Alice wakes up. Wakes up. And that's that. She's graduating from high school. New set of friends. And we have Greta, who is a supermodel in the making, but doesn't really want to, pressured by her mother. We have Mark, a comic book fan. This film also has one of the worst, if not the worst, up there as worst death sequence ever. In fact, this, 4, 5, and the next film would each have one of the worst. Yeah. The bottom 3, probably.
With these ones, yeah.
And Yvonne, a hospital volunteer and swimmer. A character so bland and so forgettable, I had forgotten her. Yeah. Tell me how she dies.
She's a swimmer.
You don't remember?
No, I can't remember.
That's how fucking bland she is. Yeah? Know how Greta dies? Know how Mark dies?
Yeah.
Yep.
Not Yvonne.
Not Yvonne. So Alice obviously shares her dream with Dan, but she does tell him that she's in control. But she continues to have these same dreams, leading to one where she's in the asylum and seeing Amanda give birth to her baby. Not very sanitary conditions, but hey, what are you going to do? Turns out this baby's a bit of a freak. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean it generally is a freak. It's a baby Freddy Krueger. Yeah. Goes mental and escapes. The baby runs off, manages to crawl off out of the operating theatre. Alice follows the baby, and guess where it goes? The church, which just now apparently was part of the asylum. This baby ends up crawling into the remains of Freddy Krueger, and he's back.
Yeah.
He's back. Which is one of the better ones. You don't think you're that impressed by it, are you?
No.
Because what he says he's found the way to come back every time now. Yeah. Well, yeah, of course it is. If he can make someone have the dream of his birth,
Then you can rerun.
Every single time.
Okay, yeah.
Every single time. Which is kind of cool. He's back now. Alice wakes up, contacts Dan, who, this is unfortunately the end of Dan.
Yeah.
Who falls asleep at the wheel, dreams he has a crash, gets on a motorbike, and this is a pretty cool death as well for this movie. Freddy's the bike. The wires and the electronics of the bike come out and bury into his body and transform him into a sort of robotic, monstrous-looking creature on the bike. There's a cool effect where Freddy's head is like a machine, the front of the bike. And Freddy drives the bike high speed into a wall, killing Dan. In real life, Dan fell asleep at the wheel and the car crashed. Alice actually sees his body in the car, which I think is a bit harsh, because Freddy kind of briefly animates Dan's body and says something to her. She faints, she wakes up in a hospital, finds out Dan actually is dead, but also that she is pregnant. This is a great angle to go down. Yeah. Love this angle. Yeah. In fact, the more I'm talking about it, this might be better than number 4 because of the extra angles they take. Yeah. That night she's visited by a young boy by the name of Jacob. She talks to young Jacob. He talks about not being wanted by his mother and stuff like that. Good child actor. Yeah. See who is actually got listed.
I don't think it has. Oh, it has.
Whit Hertford, theatre director, writer, and actor. He's good. He's a good kid in this. He does well. When Yvonne comes to visit her the next day, for whatever reason, they had to throw this in because just don't preempt your ending already. Yeah. As Yvonne's like, there are no children on this ward. There are no children here. Who was the child that visited you? You know, it's like, oh, okay, cool. I can hazard a guess here. Yeah. You know. So Alice decides finally now to share her Freddy story with everyone else. Yvonne doesn't want to know. Mark and Greta kind of believe her, like to a degree. But again, Alice has made them targets now. Yeah. Because Greta is, now we need to start killing them off. Yeah. This is the film that is bad for character development. Whereas the previous ones, you could say, well, we built them up on all this. This has very much been a, hi, my name's whatever. I'm Alice's friend. I do this and I don't like that. Oh, now it's time for me to die. Yeah, exactly that. Which is Greta, who is at a dinner party thrown by her mother with industry people relating to her potential fashion work, supermodel work. She falls asleep at a table. His cast is very sleepy. It is. Yeah. There's no real build to them trying to stay awake. So just, you know.
It's from a safer thing, yeah. Yep. I mean, you can say, like, she's probably not eating well enough under her mother's kind of, like, tutelage, saying, oh, don't eat too much. So she might be a bit sugar deprived.
This is a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, number 5. There's no subtext. Just tell us. Just show us or tell us. Yeah, that makes sense. Just say, I've not been sleeping great for about a week. Okay, then. There you go.
You're going to fall asleep with all these people around,
what's it called? So she falls asleep and ends up in a dream world where the table, it's taken on a bit of a hue and a haze, and the guests are a bit more obnoxious. She ends up kind of having to go at her mother, and her mother's like, you're ungrateful, all that kind of thing, and Freddy's turns out to be the chef. He locks her in like a high chair and starts force-feeding her food. Her cheeks puff out really violently and gross, and it's revealed that Freddy's feeding her from her own stomach. So he's spooning at her stomach and feeding her. That's kind of cool. I don't love the puffed out cheeks.
I liked them.
You did, yeah.
I thought it was quite disturbing the way the face kind of contorts and stuff like that. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, in the real world, she stands at the table and basically it looks like she's choking on a bit of food. In front of her mother and the table, she falls down dead. Alice always sees the deaths just before as they're happening. So she goes to open the fridge and the fridge is all rotting and stuff. And Greta bursts out with the puffed out cheeks and stuff like that. This is a common theme for this one as well. Mark is gutted about it and about Greta. Even though they didn't have a relationship, he fancied her. Yeah. So Mark's initial encounter with Freddy makes him believe that he's real. But he doesn't die this time. The death is coming, man. Death is coming. Alice actually saves him, but then talks to Jacob yet again. Jacob drops the biggest hint that she's his mother. Oh no, can you believe it? Yeah. So basically, Alice gets an ultrasound. Goes to get an ultrasound quite early, but Yvonne's got connections in what she wants to do career-wise. So he gets an early ultrasound, and through the ultrasound, it's clear that basically Freddy is feeding the victims to Jacob, the unborn child, because he's bigger than he should be at that age. And Jacob is dreaming. Jacob, the boy, the baby, is dreaming, which is how Freddy's able to exist. Of course, no one believes Alice. She's just crazy, except for the people nearest to her, whatever, you know. Dan's parents do I can't believe this. They visit Alice at hospital and effectively say, hey, we want the baby.
Yeah. No.
And she's not up for it. And they're kind of like, well, get him. And it's like, no, you won't. Alice's father's brilliant here, you know. He really stands up for her and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, you won't really have much of a say in that at all, definitely. You know. But yeah, it's a really weird scene. Don't really get it at all, like why it's even there. Lots more stuff about Amanda Kruger and Kruger's past, but nothing really that we don't know already.
Yeah,
it's
old ground.
Yeah, it's mainly now about like, Amanda Kruger was trying to stop Freddy. But how and why is never really connected. Like how she sort of suddenly comes into it. In the third one, it made sense. Here it's now like, oh no, now we need to find her body. That she's in the asylum somewhere else. And that's where, they're in the asylum somewhere. Which is another weird angle as well. It's like, how and why? You keep doing these things, but everything's just abandoned. And there just happens to be a body there. Yeah. Is that how life works?
No.
And, you know, Alice ends up trying to visit the asylum in her dreams. But Freddy kind of like, I guess he's smart about this. He kind of lures her away using Yvonne. Yvonne has fallen asleep and doing diving. And it is a good sequence where she dives off the diving board. Well, she's actually asleep in a jacuzzi. But in her dream, she dives off the diving board and it transforms into like a pit almost, a dirty pit.
Yeah, so I remember it. Yeah,
that's
I remember it now. Yeah,
that's a cool scene.
Transition. Yeah.
Which convinces Yvonne that it's real when Alice rescues her. But poor Mark fell asleep as well, the sleepiest cast ever. Yeah. And Mark is going to die. And what the fuck was this? What the fuck was this? It's a cool tone in the fact that it's comic book style. And then it becomes that sepia tone, black and white. Mark becomes a superhero because it's his comic book. And he guns down Freddy and we're like, oh yeah, Freddy's definitely dead. No, Freddy emerges and now he's like a beefed up, roided out Freddy. And he kills him with slashing the paper to it. You briefly see Mark's hand in the real world bloody and that's how he died. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So Alice realising, well, you know, I'm going to have to go in my dreams, confront him yet again to save her son this time.
Yeah.
Goes in to fight Freddy. She goes to sleep to fight Freddy. So in the dream world, Alice's powers, she realises that Freddy's a part of her now if he's in her child. So you do get a kind of cool effect where she's trying to split herself apart from Freddy. Yeah. Which is kind of, it's pretty weird. It's pretty, I wouldn't say gruesome because it's got a kind of rubbery look to it, but it's kind of cool looking. Yeah. Meanwhile, Yvonne, and the reason why Luke couldn't remember how Yvonne dies, because Yvonne doesn't. Yvonne actually lives.
Yeah.
Still forgettable as fuck.
Yeah.
Yvonne actually finds Amanda's remains behind like a hidden wall in there. And then from there, she ends up joining Alice to fight Freddy. Jacob, who is now like a kid in this world, goes from being good and evil. So Freddy's trying to be like, I'm your dad now, join me. Yep. Alice is like, I'm your mom, join me. And Jacob tricks Kruger. He puts on a voice, makes himself look a bit scarred like Freddy. And he's like, hey man, let me do it. Yeah, I'm going to join you. Yeah, I want to have some fun. And stuff like that. The voice is a bit stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid.
And Freddy's all like, yeah man, sweet, got a protege. And he kills Freddy. Jacob kills Freddy. That's it.
Yeah.
Done. Destroys him yet again. Easy that. Pile of remains, none of that. Jacob turns into a baby. Alice picks him up and goes back inside her. This time, it's Amanda as well, who's now there to finish off the job. And the idea is that she'll seal Freddy in time. And this is a cool sequence as you kind of see Freddy's bursts. His hand bursts from Amanda's back.
Yeah.
As she's trying to slam all these doors on him.
Yeah.
And each door's smashing through. As the camera's panning back, she's writhing with Freddy's hand. Yeah. And the last door closes, but doesn't smash or implies she locked him away, the pair of them away. That's pretty cool. Yeah. It looked pretty fucking good. But of course, months later, young Jacob Daniel Johnson. Jacob Daniel, get it?
Yep.
Dan, the boyfriend, Jacob the child. They're all having a picnic together. The survivors, Yvonne, Alice's father. And the camera pans across to see a couple of little girls doing skip rope. And what are they doing?
Singing the
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Same old.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, whatever, man. Whatever. Don't even care. At this point. This movie has some great ideas. And it does a lot of them well. I think story-wise, it's a little bit more confusing to follow, which is why I've kind of struggled to pick over it as well. But it's more sensible. It's more believable. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't really enjoy this one at all. It was just trying to get. I wanted more creative depths. I wanted less convoluted story. Like, some of the elements were good. Pick the best ones and go with them.
I feel like had you taken the best of 4 and best of 5, put it into one movie, you'd have had a stronger film overall, rather than 2 separate ones that are both just all right at best. I think Dream Child is better.
Yeah.
Better for its ending, better for its concept of the child dreaming, better resurrection of Freddy.
Yeah.
So all of that kind of works. So I think that the problem is that it's got a shit cast. Alice is nowhere as good as she was in the 4th film in this. Don't really care for in this at all. And the extras, the extra people, the Marks, the Yvonnes, nothing at all. Absolutely. Can't even say there's great deaths. Greta's is good, but not great. No. Marks, Dan's, that's the best we've got is Dan's.
Yeah,
and even that, I could take or leave it.
Yeah.
You know? It's no surprise that this did so poorly at the box office, because after number 4, who was encouraged to go see the same characters?
Yeah. Like,
again.
Oh, great, this lot again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we would be reaching the end, as in 1991 we would get Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, The Final Nightmare. But it's known as Freddy's Dead. The 6th installment, and was intended originally to be the final installment of the series. It kind of is. When you look at, I kind of see Wes Craven's New Nightmare as the sequel to 1 and 2, 1 and 3.
Yeah.
And I see them almost separate, you know?
Yeah, I thought the same sort of thing. So it's weird when we talked about these at first. It was like how you would kind of separate them out and where the links are and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we're separating them out. It's 1, 3 and Nightmare. New Nightmare. There you go. There's 1. Then 2 on its own.
Yeah.
Then 4 and 5 on its own.
Yeah.
As a separate, this on its own. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Film stars Lisa Zane, Yapo Kota, Breckin Meyer, Sean Greenblatt, Ricky Dean Logan, Leslie Dean, Toby Sexton, and of course,
Robert Englund
as Freddy Krueger in his 6th portrayal. Also a ton of cameo appearances in this. Johnny Depp, briefly. Roseanne Barr, Tom Arnold, Alice Cooper, and Iggy Pop sings the title song.
And also the 3D part,
Of course, this was New Line Cinema's first 3D film release.
So they really threw a lot at it to kind of...
When I was a youngster, I had this VHS and I watched this in 3D. I have seen this movie in 3D. Parts of it are 3D. Should say a specific part is 3D more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's shit. Let's just get that right here, now. This is the worst one of the bunch. Everybody knows this. It is horrendous at times. Horrendously acted, bad characters, shit puns, shit deaths. One of the worst of the series again, and ends horribly. Amazingly though, it was financially successful. Budget of 9 to 11 million, gross 34.9.
Okay, so I did better than the last one.
It did. It did. So, the story behind this one is basically Freddy's killed almost every child and teenager in the town of Springwood.
Yeah.
And there's one surviving kid who goes by the name of John Doe. He's being attacked by Freddy in his dream. All of it tends to take place in this one particular house. It's always either he's on a plane and he falls out of it, he wakes from the house, he opens the window, it's still in the air. It's always above Springwood in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it starts off so badly. And he opens the window of the house and that music starts playing. And what does it do? Wizard of Oz. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too.
Yeah. So I've gone into the realms of absolutely ridiculous.
Slapstick beyond belief.
Yeah.
Beyond belief. He ends up outside Springwood or on the street of Springwood, and he gets run down by a bus. He's stuck on a screen like that. Freddy's driving the bus, and Freddy launches him through what is a barrier out of Springwood, which is in perpetual night, it seems, and into when John Doe falls at the other side. He knocks his head on the rock and gets knocked unconscious. Freddy on the other side instantly says exactly what he's planning. He's sending this guy out to bring others back so that he can continue his work. It's not quite revealed what his ultimate plan is, but that's what it suggested at the start. John Doe ends up at a shelter for troubled teens. He can't remember who he is. That's why he's called John Doe. That's what the head injury did. We've got Spencer, Carlos, and Tracy there. A trio of troubled teens, all with their own issues. We have Carlos, who has hearing issues related to some sort of abuse from his mother. Spencer, whose dad is a rich guy wanting to be like him, but Spencer just wants to be his own guy.
Yeah.
And Tracy, probably the darkest one of all. Abused.
Yeah.
Abusive father, sexually abusive father.
Yeah.
But they're planning to run away from this run-down downtown shelter.
Nice.
It's not nice at all.
Yeah.
But one of the people there is Dr. Maggie Burrows, played by Lisa Zane. You're thinking, Lisa Zane, is that?
Billy Zane's sister.
It is. You're right. Well done for you for knowing it.
Yeah.
That you didn't see it. I didn't tell you. When they find John Doe, they obviously don't work out who he is, but she ends up finding a newspaper clipping in his pocket, which references Springwood. So to kind of trigger his memory, she figures a road trip to Springwood is in the cards. So the two of them go off in the van, but Tracy, Carlos, and Spencer are hiding in the van, planning to get out and run away when it goes far enough. John has a hallucination about Freddy, forcing him to crash the van, and the kids are discovered. At Springwood now, they decide to explore it, find a phone, and send the kids back. In fact, no, she sends them back already in the van, and her and John are going to stay and find out what's going on. Springwood is a dump. It is a dump, and there are no children.
All gone. Which is quite good, quite a good aspect of it.
It's kind of highlighted by a very weird fun fair, which is like, it's like there's a fun fair going on with just adults. And there are some good bits here. Where like you see the adults looking at fear at the children and like, oh, I'm running away. And someone says like, you shouldn't be here. And stuff like that.
Because of the history,
Yeah, because of the history. So it's obviously implied that the town has gone fucking mental and that they know kids being around will bring Freddy back.
Yeah.
So that's it. They get accosted by Roseanne, who's really happy to see them and says like, we'll take care of you. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Tom Arnold, who is her husband in this film as well, and I think they were in real life at this point, comes over and he's like, no, go away. You shouldn't be here. Pulls her away and stuff like that. That's their cameo. Very, very strange.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
They try to leave and basically end up in a loop. A constant loop. We get some more odd dream sequence here. Carlos with the map that just won't stop opening up. And it's very long. How many times do you do the loop over and over again? Like, show that in more condensed form, please.
Yeah, we don't need to see all of it.
No, we don't, but we do. But they end up stopping at a house and figuring, well, look, you know what? Let's hold up here, get some sleep and rest. Once you go inside the house transforms into Nancy's house. Freddy's moved in, obviously, still living there. Well, John and Maggie have gone to the Springwood orphanage and ended up finding out by talking to a school teacher there that Freddy had a child. John believes it's him.
Yeah.
He believes that's why Freddy didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Is that he's Freddy's kid.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Obviously, it's not the case. No. In fact, it kind of gives that away quite early on, because we get a lot of sort of flashback dream sequences where you see Freddy as a grown-up adult man, played by Robert Englund, obviously, playing with a young girl in dark hair in the backyard. Now, it never shows it's Robert, but he speaks. It's obviously him.
Yeah.
And why else would we be having these flashbacks?
Yeah, it's clearly her.
Yeah.
Obviously, they threw it in just to kind of throw some people off that weren't paying attention.
You'd have to really not be paying attention. Our trio of teens have to be killed. So some of them anyway. First up is Carlos, who falls asleep and gets tormented by Freddy. First with a big Q-tip through the ear by his abusive mother. I do like this. It's quite gross
yeah.
looking. I think it helps that when it like goes through it's got goo and blood and stuff in it, like brain matter.
That's not nice.
Freddy cuts his ear off and takes his hearing aid. When he gives it back to him, when he gets it back, Carlos puts it on and it transformed into some sort of creature that burrows its way into his ear and heightens his hearing. Every noise is really painful. So Freddy goes super slapstick here. Remember the opening the whiteboard up?
Yeah.
Claws down, dropping nails. Eventually makes so much noise that Carlos's head explodes.
Yeah.
That's Carlos. This is a weird one as well. The whole sort of event used to be what happened to you in real life, in a dream. It's not necessarily what happened to you in real life, but your body would remain and so on. Carlos's body just disappears. That fades away. Very, very strange.
Yeah. I say by this point, they're probably just gone,
Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? Just get rid of them. Oh, and then of course we've got Spencer. Spencer dies via video gaming. I hate this death.
Yeah.
So Spencer falls asleep after smoking some drugs. Johnny Depp has his cameo on the TV. It turns psychedelic. Spencer gets pulled into a video game where he's accosted by his dad in cartoon form. Be like me, be like me, be like me. Hitting him with a tennis racket. Turns out Freddy's the one controlling him. You see Freddy sitting there with a controller saying stupid lines like, wow, great graphics. Eventually Spencer gets the upper hand. Freddy is shocked by all of this. The others get into the dream and try and help and knock the controller out of Freddy's hand, but Freddy reveals he's got a Nintendo Power Glove, effectively, and uses that to knock Spencer down. In the real world, Spencer is bouncing around the house like a fucking cartoon character. Boing, boing, head through the roof. It is absurdly stupid. Bounces up the stairs, wobbles at the top of the stairs. In the game, Freddy is whipping him, gonna knock him down to a pit of cartoon versions of his father. He falls. In real life, he falls down the stairs and then disappears into a pit. Goodbye, Spencer. Thanks for coming.
Oh, so they've really gone off the deep end, haven't they? Bad.
Yes. Tracy almost dies, but Tracy is saved. Tracy has probably the most harrowing dream where her abusive father comes home and she fights back. She smashes up his face, gets it all bent out of shape. But is saved by Maggie. And then they head home. They leave. Somehow they're able to leave this time. They go back. And John's convinced, I'm his dad and whatever. But Kruger actually ends up attacking him on the drive back and actually reveals that his child is a girl. He kills John this time because John's done his job. This is again part of the house dream sequence. He falls out with a parachute that has Freddy in the parachute for whatever reason. Freddy cuts the things and then on the ground pushes out a bed of spikes like it's Roadrunner. And John Doe falls in it. And in real life, John spits up blood. Again, it doesn't even consistency. No fucking consistency. No. Tracy and Maggie go back to the centre where it's revealed that it's like they never existed. No one remembers Spencer or Carlos or anything like that, except for the doctor who runs it because he can control his dreams. Maggie then heads home, goes home to find that she was adopted, and that she's Freddy's daughter. Her birth name is Catherine Kruger. Her name was changed when her father was arrested and obviously murdered. We do get another flashback sequence where we see Freddy's wife at the time discovering his murder room. And young Maggie actually went down there and saw it.
Traumatic.
The doctor who runs the facility reveals that Freddy's powers comes from dream demons. Dream maggots. Yep.
God, yeah.
So apparently it turns out Freddy made a deal with these demons back when he first got burned. In fact, we see it. Where the room's on fire and he's speaking to these CGI demon 3D things saying, give me all the power. I want it. Not Robert England's best fucking moment. And those demons are constantly reviving him. So all that stuff in the previous films, forget it. No. Dream demons. Idiots. Idiots. And that if you can pull Freddy into the real world, he can be killed. Didn't we do this?
We tried this.
We've tried this several times over.
Did not work that time. It's just a whole lack of imagination.
Yep.
And throwing crap in there, just to kind of keep. We
want to finish it. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
So she's obviously going to go into the dream world to get Freddy back, confront him as father and daughter. She puts on 3D glasses. That's for all of us to put our 3D glasses in and go through some sort of weird mural painting. And you go through his mind.
Yeah.
The effect is cool. I remember it being 3D and I remember really liking it as a kid. Because that shit was impressive when you were a kid.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
So she effectively goes for the history of Freddy. Teased as a child. Kids chanting son of 100 maniacs. Who told them?
Yeah.
How did that information get out?
Yeah, it's pretty sensitive.
You think?
Yeah.
That's not something like you're gonna just be sharing.
Nope.
You know? Absolutely not. Freddy was abused by his foster father, who is... Don't remember who his foster father was. The great and glorious Shockmaster himself, Alice Cooper.
Oh shit, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I
it
actually
feels
love this
so-
scene.
Yeah.
I love teenage Freddy Krueger and Alice Cooper whipping him. It's
Yeah.
whipping him and teenage Krueger going, "Can I have some more, sir?"
Yes.
Mwah! Beautiful.
Yes.
That's some quality shit.
Sorry, this film overall was so like such a hard watch that obviously the cool moments just kind of like passed me by. But yeah, I did appreciate that little cameo.
Absolutely. And the teenage Freddy is portrayed by Toby Sexton, and I'm mentioning it because he's brilliant. The bruising he gets, the sinister smile, like, "Can I have some more, sir?" Fucking A.
Yeah.
You know, and you're acting opposite against a rock legend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So after, like, you know, we obviously didn't get a flashback about how he made friends with the fucking demons. God, even if I say it, I cringe.
Yeah.
What's it called? And that's when... So as a little girl, she goes down and discovers Freddy's murder dungeon.
Yep.
And then she's like an adult version of herself in a school outfit
Yeah.
with like the pigtails and all that. She's able to pull Freddy into the real world, which is in like, they end up in the basement area of the place. And it's fight time. Let's kick some ass. Weapons and stuff like that. It's a fight sequence with Freddy Krueger. Works better only because, similar to when Nancy fights him in the original movie, we know he's human.
Yeah.
So he can be defeated. And there's a fair bit of tussling over the glove. Now, these are all weapons and stuff being confiscated by the patients of the thing. And some of the shit is crazy.
Yeah.
Pipe bombs.
Yeah.
Pipe bombs. Pipe bombs.
It's a little bit over the top.
I know it's 1991, but like, it's a pipe bomb. That kid ain't staying there. You're going to visit the police to explain why you've got a fucking pipe bomb.
Yeah, I know.
That's an explosive. That's a terrorist. Yeah, so she gets hold of Freddy's claw, Maggie, and Freddy's like, "Hey man, try..." We're not like that.
Yeah.
Hey man, yeah. He's like, "Try it on for size. You're my daughter. You know, we can do this together," and that kind of thing. But instead, she ends up stabbing him through the chest with it. With like the claw, and then like embedding him into like steel supports, and that pipe bomb is then used to shove it into his chest. She says "Happy Father's Day," kisses him and runs. It blows up. Freddy's head comes towards the screen for a 3D moment. You see the demons flying out, saying something. They sound awful.
Yeah.
And that's apparently it. Freddy is dead. As it ends, it's awful. She smiles at the screen, Lisa Zane, and goes, "Freddy's dead," like that.
Yeah.
And the movie just ends, and you just sit there and you go, "The fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
The fuck did I just watch?"
So bad. Imagine paying to see that in cinema.
Oh. It's the worst.
Yeah, definitely.
It is the worst of the franchise. Like, no question. Nothing that comes after is as bad as this.
No.
It's the worst of the franchise. I hate it.
Yeah.
Rewatching it, I hate it even more because now I can't even have the childish glee of stupidity.
Yeah.
Where I'm a young child going, "Oh, that's funny. You're so funny." You know. Now I'm an adult going, "It's fucking awful."
Yeah.
You know. What's a redeeming feature of it? Let's try and think of some redeeming features of it.
It's hard. It's really hard work to do that.
I guess the only part of Carlos's death is cool.
Yeah.
The Tracy angle with the abusive father is dark. The initial arrival in Springwood, I said to you at the time we were watching it, there was the making of a good idea here. Town psychosis
Yeah.
was a really interesting idea. It's dropped very, very quickly. In fact, after the fair bit, you never see another adult in that film again, in that town again. Yeah. And that's about it.
Yeah.
But everything about it is awful. You can say things like, "Oh, Robert Englund is as great as always," but he's not.
No.
He's not. He's simply not. The best bits of him involved are in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's just him doing what he's been doing for the last 6 films. And...
we're really thin.
Yeah, wearing thin and being made to look... This is the slapstick movie.
Yeah.
Like, we reference Roadrunner style behaviour. You always expect cartoon sound effects behind some of the things he's doing. You know?
It weakens it even more for me because I not having seen them before, I was like, oh, I bet they still hold up as being really gory all the way through. And really dark. And I'm like, wow, I had that really wrong.
You did. It's the worst one. It's as simple as that. And I would say if you've no interest in watching it, don't.
No.
There's no storyline stuff here. There's nothing for you.
We could be a time saver.
Technically, it's true to a degree that Freddy was dead, although Freddy vs. Jason is in the continuity.
Yeah.
So technically, even that didn't stick.
Yeah.
Even that didn't fucking stick.
Ugh.
You know? But we're going to move on from that. We're now hitting Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the second last of these videos. Or just known as the New Nightmare. 1994. It's meta as fuck.
Yeah.
Be prepared for the meta-ness of this.
Yeah.
Directed by Wes Craven. Back in it. He's in it. It is not part of the series continuity. It could be watched alone, but I think to understand it better, you'd watch the first and the third films to understand what it is. Because it portrays Freddy Krueger. The franchise is it's a movie. It's all a movie. It's always been movies. Everybody plays themselves, basically.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. Heather Langenkamp plays herself.
Yeah.
Robert Englund plays himself.
Yeah.
Wes Craven plays himself. Robert Shea plays himself. Yeah. This is what it is. So you might be thinking, well, how does that work in the lore of Freddy? How does that work with Freddy Krueger? This film chooses to make an entity, an evil entity that exists in time and space that got attracted to Krueger and took on the role and the personification.
Yeah.
When the movies were being made, he became trapped in them, which is why they're dark and so what they are.
Yeah.
Since the movies have stopped, the creature is free to roam. Yeah. However, it loves being Freddy Krueger. Yeah. So it's trying to bring what it is into the real world. Yeah. I think the story is very, very good. Yeah. However, it's not a brilliant film.
No, it can be quite slow in parts.
Mm-hmm. There's only 2 deaths.
Yeah, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. You just want more oomph from it because the idea is solid, but you just want more fun with it, I think.
Yep.
Just kind of plods along.
It's very serious. Very serious. However, a lot of the serious stuff I love. I love how Freddy looks in this. I love it.
Very dark.
But before we get to that, the movie opens in a very similar way of the old movies, where you kind of see in the creation of the claw. This one's a bit different, as it ends with this guy cutting his hand off. Because the claw is like an animatronic. It's not a glove. It's a claw.
Yeah, that moves
independently. That moves itself.
Yeah.
So it looks like whatever's being created here is supposed to fit onto a stump. Almost like the chainsaw with like Evil Dead.
Yeah.
With Ash. Anyway, when the guy cuts his hand off, it pans out and is revealed it's a movie set. A movie set that the man Chase, who is played by... I have forgotten who it's played by.
David Newsom.
David Newsom is the special effects creator. And it's for a movie that's being worked on. Yeah. And we revealed that Heather Langenkamp is that's her husband. Chase is her husband. Heather is watching the movie as part of it with their young son Dylan. Turns out it's a bit of a dream sequence as the claw comes to life and starts murdering and killing first 2 of the special effects guys, and then it attacks Chase. Yeah. That's when she wakes up. Yeah. She wakes up at home in an earthquake. An earthquake's occurring. What's it called? Seems like it's a regular occurrence there. In fact. She lives at home, nice home with her husband Chase, their son Dylan, who we already said, and she's a star. She's recognised as Nancy no matter what. She doesn't seem like she loves that. No. Especially since she's got a young kid. She's trying to distance herself from the franchise. But ultimately, that's what everyone comes back to. Like she goes to a TV show, a talk show. What's it call it? And it's all about Nancy there. Yeah. That's a problem for her, unfortunately. We get the first sort of hint that some things are a bit off, actually, during the earthquake moment. Afterwards, Chase has cut his fingers, and it looks like the exact same cut that he did in her dream. Chase is quick to dismiss it, obviously.
Yeah, coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's revealed that Heather is getting calls from a fan, a crazed fan who pretends to be Freddy Krueger, sings nursery rhymes. This has been going on for months, and just keeps happening. Believable, believable. Obsessed fan, absolutely. She ends up being pitched the idea to reprise her role as Nancy in a new Nightmare film, which she didn't realise Wes Craven was working on. So Craven's writing the story. So Robert Shea pitches it to her. She doesn't really want to do it. She kind of says no. And a part of it is it's constantly based around Dylan. Yeah. She's worried about the effect that horror might have on him. That's an interesting angle. It's not something I necessarily agree with. I think very much if you tell people don't watch something, they're going to do it. Yeah. But Dylan does seem to have some disturbed issues. And she catches him watching a film, for example, the scene with Tina in the body bag. And don't get me wrong, a child that age, of course, he's like, what, 4 or 5? Yeah. He shouldn't be watching this. No. But she interrupts him. It's a traumatizing episode. And all of this kind of keeps building up and building up. At the talk show, again, she's shocked and surprised. And it's great meta of how popular Freddy Krueger became. As the crowd are all... She wants to talk about her TV work. But the crowd are all there with Freddy Krueger signs, outfits and all that. And they surprise her by having Robert Englund come out as Freddy Krueger, and he's hamming it up. Yeah, they love it. And they love it. I love this. It's one of my favourite memorable scenes as he's standing in the spotlight, because that's Krueger. He's in the spotlight. She's in his shadow, sitting down, and the film slows down like slow as he's doing this, waving his arms to this crowd, this wonderful light. And he just I get it. He nailed it. It's a phenomenon. And I love the idea of him, the spotlight's on Krueger, she's in his shadow. That's exactly how it is. Yeah, I do like that. I do appreciate little touches. The music plays, the famous score, and you're like, it's terrifying that we turned. Because, she even says in an interview, he's a villain. He's a villain. He's a child murderer. Yeah. We turned him into this fucking lovable rogue. Yeah. How? Yeah. We didn't do this with any other. Yeah. No, yeah, he actually like Jason. It's good he talks. I said this before. Because you've given him a voice and puns and catchphrases. People love catchphrases. Jason, at the big three, Jason and Michael don't have that. Yep. They're silent killers and they remain anonymous and scary because you don't know anything, I'll go with that. I mean, it could be that Jason's got a voice like Joe Pasquale. And it might take the edge off when he's trying to intimidate you. But yeah, I think you've given him a character, you've given him a voice and a taglines, and that's kind of weakened him overall. And of course, there's the obvious one, is portrayed by Robert Englund, who's portrayed him in all these movies. So we have a personality behind it, whereas the rest aren't like that. The Shape has been played by many different people. Michael Myers, Jason has been played by many, many others as well. But anyway, back to the film. Yeah. So, the Dylan issues force Heather to contact Chase, who's gone away to make a movie. It turns out Chase has been secretly working on the effects for Craven's new Nightmare film. Yeah. She talks to Englund about it. He says, I'm up for it, but I wasn't, he knows about the film being made. Yeah. And basically, the whole concept is that Wes is making the movie, Wes Craven, because he started to dream again. And when he dreams, that's when he gets his ideas from. Yeah. We get a visit with Wes later on in the movie, who explains it a little bit better. Really just there for the fucking exposition dump more than anything else. But basically, Dylan's episodes, along with Julie, which is the babysitter, struggling to control him, kind of creates more of an issues. Chase's 2 workmates didn't turn up for work, who were the 2 people that were killed in her dream, which gets Heather more worried. She contacts Chase and insists he must come home. Chase goes home but falls asleep at the wheel. Freddy Krueger kills him here. The hand comes out of the seat. Great sequence, very well done with tension as the claw kind of teases his groin before eventually bursting out and then just stabbing him in the chest. Chase is killed. Heather's quite heartbroken. She goes to visit his body, and when it's pulled back, she sees sort of 3 scratches there and demands it be revealed to show 3 claws. The doctor's like, look, man, it was an accident, that kind of thing. But she's starting to really think this is Freddy related. No, I don't know necessarily she believes it's Freddy Krueger, the entity. No. But more someone or something being, or you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Add that to the call she keeps getting and stuff like that. That death really causes a problem for Dylan. His behaviour gets even worse. She sometimes says things to the boy that she probably shouldn't say. You know, he's very, very impressionable. And this is made all the worse when she visits and talks with John Saxon, who reprises his role as John Saxon. They're friends, and he's giving her advice, and like he says something great, which is basically she's like, oh, you know, Dylan's all messed up. And John's like, the kid just lost his father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so grounded.
Yeah, you'd expect that.
Yeah, so grounded. But this is at a playground where she told Dylan that, like, reach for God and stuff like that. And Dylan climbs out the fucking tower in rocket and is trying to reach for God. He ends up falling and being caught by Nancy. John runs over there and he's like, oh, God didn't want me. And he's pretty fucked up. And, like, John Saxon's face is all, which is like...
yeah, you might get some help now for this child.
And then, of course, there's the funeral scene, Chase's funeral scene. The first brief look you get of what Freddy Krueger will be. Yeah. As there's an earthquake and Nancy bangs her head and knocks herself out. Heather knocks herself out. And in it, she dreams that Dylan is being pulled into their grave by Freddy. Yep. You get a brief flash of his head as he pulls Dylan under. She goes in after him and Chase is like, stay with me. Yeah. She wakes up by John and stuff like that. So basically it's like she starts to become Nancy more and more now. She starts to become paranoid about staying awake. Things at home just aren't right. No. Part of the earthquake created like claw marks down the bedroom.
That's quite clever. I like that.
Yeah, and it gets worse as the film goes on. They widen.
Yeah.
Like at first it's just like one with two scratches and then they become bigger and wider. As if something's breaking through. That's when she visits Wes. And he tells her basically the dreams are capturing about the entity and stuff like that. It is a bit of an exposition dump, unfortunately. I don't love it. No. I like the explanation, but I don't love how it's all just like, this is what's happening.
Thrown at you.
Yeah, and this is what's happening. But it's to say that this creature, this entity, because it now believes it's been in Freddy Krueger for so long and it thinks it's Freddy, it's trying to latch on to the one thing Freddy knows best. The character of Nancy, which is Heather Langenkamp, of course. And by killing her, it thinks it'll be able to come into the real world. So that's its target. She contacts Robert, who, talks about the new Freddy and stuff like that. And it's wonderful here, as this is Robert England's, this is what I love. The camera only stays in his face as he's talking on the phone to her, but he's painting. He's an artist. And the more he talks to her, he's like, yeah, I've had a similar thing. We'll meet up and talk. She's like, can I come over now? He's like, now's not a good time. Yeah. We'll talk in the week. Whatever. Then the camera pans around to reveal the painting he's been drawing, which is of this new Freddy. Yeah. That's the last we see of Robert, sadly. Who knows what happens to him, because she ends up trying to contact him and she gets a voicemail saying that he's left. Yeah. Him and his wife have gone away on holiday. So we actually kind of get a Heather confrontation with the new Freddy, so to speak. At home and in a dream, what's it call it, another earthquake occurs and smashes things up. She notices her coffee maker has somehow gone from the side into the fucking cupboard. Yeah. And she goes in there, and I do love this reveal. And he pulls aside the coats and just face out and says, "Miss me." They fight for a bit. This is where she gets cut, like clawed by a thing. But she wakes up and Dylan again having problems and ends up goes to hospital. So she takes Dylan. Dylan has to go to hospital. Yeah. So she takes him to hospital, talks to the nurse who has a little bit of a thing about like suggesting that maybe he's seen her films and maybe not doing a great job as a parent, that kind of thing. Heather doesn't help matters here. Worse to come, but she's, you know what, Dylan will be all right. He'll be safe here. I'm gonna go home. Go home and get some sleep, Heather. Yeah. That kind of thing. So she goes home. She's gonna get some sleep. And in her dream, an earthquake happens. She wakes up from the earthquake, and she notices a coffee maker has ended up in the cupboard. Yeah. This is where Freddy reveals himself to Heather. Yeah. As in the closet, she's sort of looking at the coats, and he pulls them apart, steps forward, facing the camera, looks great, and says, "Miss me." Love it. Yeah. They fight. We don't get a full-on look of Freddy yet here because it's dark, but you can already see he's not quite looking the same. No. Apparently this is what Wes Craven wanted him to originally look like. Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting little twist on things.
Yeah. They fight, and in the fight, she ends up getting her arm slashed. Realising that he's going to go after Dylan, she goes back to the hospital. But when she arrives at the hospital, do you know what I mean? She's a mess.
Yeah, hysterical.
She's bleeding. So the doctor's kind of dealing with her. And that's when she talks to her. And Heather fucks up, basically. And says, I have to protect them. Basically, I have to protect them from Freddy. She's like, Freddy, the character from your movie,
so they start
doesn't look good. Yeah. Doesn't look good at all. So their plan is now to kind of basically take control here and sedate Dylan.
Yeah.
To help him sleep and keep Heather away. Julie's popped in now as well. So Heather has told Julie to look after her, and Julie's seeing that what the nurses are going to do. I don't love the unprofessional behaviour of the nurses here.
Yeah.
You can't just do this, and they do a tricksy thing where they pretend one's going to inject Dylan.
Yeah.
Julie fights the nurse off, and another does it secretly behind her. Yeah. Julie does punch one of the nurses here, which I love, and ends up locking herself in the room with Dylan. But Dylan, he's a 5-year-old. He's been sedated. You're not keeping this kid awake.
No, he's gone.
Heather's, like I said, still now being accosted by hospital security. So it's all going wrong while Dylan is slowly falling asleep and Julie's trying to wake him up. And obviously this is the arrival. Dylan falls asleep, and behind Julie, Freddy stands up. And this Freddy he's not the wisecracking guy you remember. For starters, he looks taller. But his outfit, his outfit's similar, but it's different as well. The fedora is different. He's got a jacket on. He's got leather trousers on. He's got big boots. The claw is not a glove anymore. No. It's like a bone claw.
Yeah.
Looks great.
I really like the change.
The makeup, the face, his eyes, he's more snake-like. There is no wisecracks here. Yeah. He says a few things, but not like he did. It's meant with malice.
Yeah.
This is the Tina death. This is the Tina death for Julie, which is it's an incredible death. And what I really like about it is it's done in front of the kid, who sells it wonderfully. But also you see Freddy this time. So, Julie's being dragged up the wall, but it also shows Freddy walking up the wall and pulling her by the foot. Yeah. And he gestures at Dylan a couple of times, claw like that. Yeah. And Julie's reaching out for Dylan and covered in blood. And he just snaps her neck.
Yeah.
And Dylan
so nasty.
cries.
Yeah.
And she falls. The nurses break in and... Dylan's gone out the window now, rightfully fucking so. Yeah. And how are you going to explain this? This brings everybody running, obviously. Yeah. Heather realises where Dylan's gone because she told Dylan when he was in the hospital where they lived, across the freeway.
Oh yeah, and the kid takes the shortest route.
Across the freeway. She chases after him, and it's brilliantly done how Dylan's being tormented by Freddy. So... he's up in the sky, similar to like Dream Warriors, that kind of thing, trying to scare Dylan. You see a point where Dylan wants to double back, but there's all these variations of Freddy at the fence, stopping you. Dylan ends up in the middle of the freeway. Freddy picks him up with his claw, swinging him around, kind of thing. Heather gets in the freeway as well, gets run down by a car, but manages to save Dylan. The kid manages to run off because she's obviously been hurt from being run down. Eventually, she gets home, and this is where everything blurs. So reality becomes the movie. Yeah. And it's first noticed by John Saxon.
Yeah.
And basically John Saxon starts to take on his persona of Donald Thompson, her father. And it's said off the cuff once, you just got to pay slightly attention to him referring to her as Nancy. It's the second time she goes, why'd you keep calling me Nancy? And he's like, why'd you keep calling me John?
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was like, yes, mate.
It's really cool.
And especially love when... she says to him about, it's Fred Krueger, and he does the same thing he did in the original, which is the hardening of the face. Right, sure.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that works on both. That works on the John Saxon real life going, what?
Well, yeah.
And the original thing. Yeah. The house transforms back to our old home. She's wearing Nancy's clothing. And realising what's happened, she buys into it. She goes with it. He drives off. She's like, thank you, Daddy, and goes into the house. Into the house, she basically realises Dylan left her a bread trail. She talked again, impressionable kid, about the Hansel and Gretel story earlier on in the movie. So she follows a trail of sleeping pills, taking them, which lead into his bed. And he talked about Freddy being at the end of his bed and the dinosaur would look after him. Yeah. With the sleeping pills and believing it to be real, she's able to go through into Freddy's territory.
It's quite cleverly done as well. Kind of like it's like she goes under the bed sheet, but it turns into like a longer tunnel.
It billows out, turns
Yeah.
into a tunnel, and as you go further into it, the realities cross over, and it becomes like a dirty tunnel with like mud and water, and she comes spitting out of a Freddy Krueger face,
Yeah.
which is where the water's coming out of the mouth, and it's like an ancient monument almost to a certain degree,
Yeah.
which I guess is to imply where the entity lives
Yeah.
most of the time. The film slows down a little bit here, I'm afraid, though. At this point, we needed to be a bit faster,
Yeah.
and we turned it a bit of a cat and mouse thing, where she's looking for Dylan, and you get the Freddy claws and the noises, and it's a bit like we've done this.
Yeah, get to
like
the point.
we're at the end now. But I do like the fact that Heather isn't afraid of this entity here. Like she tries to fight it, but it's quite strong. It chases Dylan, who ends up in a furnace. What's called, and in that furnace, you kind of get a cool effect of Freddy using his stretchy arm stuff, which is from the original movie. I love certain sequences of this. The Freddy chasing Dylan in slow motion with his leg hurt.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Nancy getting stuck in, because it's Nancy now, Heather, getting stuck in the mucky stuff like the original movie.
Yeah.
But in the furnace, Freddy stretches out his arm to grab Dylan and drag him over, and extends his mouth to start eating Dylan. It's a good effect.
Yeah,
It's a good
I
effect.
really like that effect. Yeah, because it's horrible looking.
It is a good effect. But Nancy, Heather, having woken up after being knocked out, stabs Freddy in the back which kind of obviously causes him to rear up. She shoves him into the furnace. Dylan gets out. They close it and they turn the heat up.
Yeah.
This is the end of Freddy Krueger. Effectively, he's but classic. He's burning alive.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about the concept of the entity, this must be it destroyed then,
Yeah.
because that's Freddy Krueger
Yeah.
in its own environment, being killed as Freddy Krueger did.
So
the
that's
destruction
him.
of Freddy Krueger in that world surely must be it.
Yeah, internalizers have done. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we get quite an explosion sequence as the whole place starts to come down and explode.
Yeah.
They dive into the water and emerge out of the blankets.
Yeah.
In the real world now, they finally got a script. The script for Wes Craven's New Nightmare, signed off by Wes. And I like this in that, like, Nancy, I guess, or Heather, back being Heather, realizes that you can't really protect your child from this, and the better thing to do is context.
Yeah.
So she starts to read a screenplay to him.
Yeah. So he knows it's real. Sorry, it's fake. It was a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So that's it. That's Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I've always been a fan of this one. Always been a fan of this one.
There is faults. It's not a perfect film.
No. But it's after the run of 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
It's a breath of fresh air for
Yeah.
a serious Freddy Krueger movie.
Yeah.
The problems are this: very slow at times. There's a lot of focus, particularly in the early points, about Heather's life and Dylan and stuff like that, and it's dry.
Yeah, I've never enjoyed sort of kids and horror films. I find the whole point of it dull and like, maybe not having kids, I don't connect as other parents might watch it. I know parents with younger kids. I don't know, but I've never appreciated that fact, and it just dragged a bit. Like, we got that you cared about. You set it up quite early that you cared about Dylan.
Yep.
It didn't have to be hammered home as much,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of like took away from like the action part of the film.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. But when those moments do happen, they are good. I love this Freddy Krueger. I think Robert Englund does brilliantly. After doing the role in such a way for such a long time, you then ask, look, you're going to do it, but you've got to be evil.
yeah,
You've got to go back
yeah,
to that thing. Like, and he embodied it. It's a wonderful. I love the look. I love that this version of Freddy Krueger was like, yeah, I'm sexy, and I know it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Amazing stuff. It's just, it sounds stupid to say, one more death, one more character dying, just one more, not many.
yeah.
Was one more for impact. Maybe even one of the stars. Maybe Robert Englund
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah, because if you hinted at it, just show it.
Show it.
Yeah.
Show it. Let that be a thing. And how meta would that have been to have Robert Englund killed by that Freddy Krueger?
Yeah, would have been extra.
And it's already meta as fuck. We have glossed over so much of it. But acting wise, it can't be faulted.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's so strong. So strong.
Yeah.
This is Heather Langenkamp at her best. John Saxon is brilliant. The boy that plays Dylan, don't know his
He's a
name,
good kid.
really, really good. really, really strong. The only one I say I don't love is probably Wes Craven. Probably and that's before the exposition dump.
Yeah, it's come across as like it was just obliged to be in it.
Or
He's not an actor, is he?
No, he's a director, obviously. Creator, producer, writer, you know? Because like even Robert Shea, who appears as a producer, does fine. Does fine, you know?
Yeah.
But I get why people don't like it. Because it is slow. It's too long. It could do with 15, 20 minutes shaved off, an extra death chucked in just to have that 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
A little less of the early stuff. Because let's be honest, the phone call part doesn't really amount to much.
Yeah.
It implies, right, so like it's just an extra element where she ends up collecting letters as well, and it reveals answer the phone. And that's another Freddy Krueger scare. Yeah. So was that Freddy Krueger all along as well, trying to get through?
Yeah, and you could have shortened that whole sequence of things by having like her receive a phone call and making like a little log of it or something.
Or just not had it.
And then,
Would any of that been harmed by not being there?
I mean, you've already said that you've got a stalker.
You could just say, I've got a stalker. Would it have done any harm?
No.
I don't know if it would. But it is, after the shit show we've just gone through, it is a good movie. I definitely think it's one you watch. Yeah. I think if you want to watch them in a bubble, watch 1, 3 and New Nightmare.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a bubble. There's your nightmare story.
Yeah.
And now we come to the end. It's long, but we are here.
Yeah.
We are at the remake. The 2010 remake, directed by Samuel Bayer and written by Wesley Strick and Eric Heiserer. The film stars Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. Now let's say this straight away. Love him. Great actor. This isn't here. This is not right for him. Sorry, man. Not right for him. Carl Gallner, Rooney Mara, Kate Cassidy, Thomas Dekker, and Kellen Lutz. It is, of course, a remake of the 1984 film, produced by Michael Bay and Platinum Dunes. Yes. Yeah. Now, what's quite interesting is that this was originally, for those who've seen it, the Friday the 13th remake is a good remake. Because it combines 4 films into one.
Oh.
It takes the best of the first 4 films. There you go.
Oh, I've seen that. I've not seen that remake.
So it puts the best one. Oh, don't get me wrong. It's a good film with the concept that it's a remake.
Yes.
But so they were going to do the same with Nightmare on Elm Street. It was going to be the same idea. Take the best elements from each of the films in the original series and create a single storyline with them. But of course, that's fucking... When you look at the Nightmare franchise, you're like, wait. Okay, what do we take? First film? Well, you're not taking much from the second. Yeah. That side. All right, the third film. Okay. Yeah. 4, 5, and 6? What? Yeah. What do you take from that? What do you take from those? No. Then you had New Nightmare, and suddenly you're like, aren't we just doing the Wes Craven stuff only? Yeah. So, yeah, I can understand why they didn't. It's not like Friday the 13th where you get standalone slasher stories, you know? It doesn't really work like that way. In this, of course, this is just a serious film. Yeah.
Dark.
They're not quips. No. They're not quips. There are things he says that are designed to be teasing, but because this character is way more sexual, and we'll get to why, it's not great. No. Obviously, we got to talk about the biggest issue with this film, which is the character Freddy Krueger. I don't want to be that person. I hate being a person. One of the problems with Jackie Earle Haley is he's too small. Yeah. He's not that imposing of a figure.
But you could have made him
you could shoot him in a way.
Look at Lord of the Rings, and that was made way back when. Like there's technology to film people to make people imposing. Mm-hmm. It's just weird they didn't put the extra time to make him because he's just a little bit taller because he's quite slim build. It's not like he's chunky, like he's not having a chunky Freddy Krueger, but just a bit more height to him, a bit more.
It's made worse when he's standing around other characters. But that's not my biggest problem. I can get over that. What I can't get over is the makeup and the CGI. So this combines 2 things. One is first they have makeup that was designed to make him look like a real burn victim. Fine, except that's not that good to look at as like a kind of film thing. But it would also do this thing where part of his face is CGI'd here to give it kind of like a broken look. Yeah. Hate it. However, it was successful. Very successful. 63 million at domestic box office, 115 million worldwide. Second highest grossing film in the franchise behind Freddy vs. Jason. Wow. However, We've had nothing since 2010.
Yeah.
So happy days. That is that.
That's it. We're done. Yeah.
Let's just say, what do you think of this as a film overall then?
It sounds really bad, but we watched this quite recently, first time for me, and I'm struggling to remember what actually happened. Like, we're talking through it now, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's this bit. It just bland. Like nothing. They just. That's what frustrates me the most about reboots. You've got an opportunity.
Yep.
You've got an opportunity to kind of use the law and make it something like really, really bloody messed up. But they went down obvious routes, and yeah, it's just a poor film.
Yep.
Poor film.
I hate this movie.
Yeah.
I think everything it does right, it stole. And everything it does wrong, it's worse than what came before.
Yeah.
I would rather watch this. Oh God, I'd rather watch this than say Freddy's dead. Because at least but then I don't know. Do I? Because this is this isn't like, this is boring. Because it's the same shit.
Yeah. And you've got the benefit of extra money and extra, like, you've got the ability to do more with it.
Other than a handful of scenes, this is a complete miss for me.
Yeah.
Complete miss. But we'll explain why. So it opens at a diner at Springwood where we're introduced to Dean. And Dean has been having trouble with Freddy Krueger. We're dropped in that straight away. We kind of get dream sequence within the diner. Freddy's revealed quite early on. Not quite seen, but like the claws, the usual things he loves to do. The movie starts off by basically copying the same bollocks we've seen before.
Yeah.
Dean in the diner, he ends up, another group come in, the next group of kids, some of them tease him, oh, he's weird and stuff like that. He sits down with his ex-girlfriend, Chris, who tries to talk to him and so on. When she walks off, he continues to dream, and this is where he gets killed by Freddy Krueger. Freddy slashes his throat, but in real life, it's Dean decapitating his own throat. It's a good opening death, purely because it's quite violent and gory. Sets the scene quite well.
Yeah.
Also sets up the idea of, oh, okay, we're doing this whole, it's supposed to look like suicide in real life. Yeah, don't forget that. That'll be dropped later on.
Yeah.
Dropped because God Almighty, will that be a good thing? We're supposed to be cut up about it. We're supposed to be cut up about this because everyone is cut up about it, including the waitress, who is Nancy. Yes, Nancy. I don't know why you'd keep her the same name.
No.
Particularly when the Tina character gets to be called Chris.
It's just another thing of...
Change the names completely.
Yeah.
Just change them completely. It would have been fun, because what you did by having Nancy in this, who was portrayed by Rooney Mara, is you automatically make me go, all right, so you're the Heather Langenkamp. Well, you're not Heather Langenkamp.
No.
You're not my Nancy.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Just don't be Nancy. Particularly when why change the others?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Just change them all then.
Yeah.
And it's fine. No one's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't call it Nancy. Well, no, it's the Nancy character. We just, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me. And more worse of all, she's not even a main character for the first third of this movie. That's Chris, a.k.a. Tina. At Dean's funeral, Chris sees a photograph of her and Dean as children, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know we knew them as children. We didn't know these people." Like, and they're like, they're surprised. They all apparently met in high school.
Yeah.
But then she starts to have the dreams of Freddy.
Yeah.
Same. We're gonna be. It's almost tiring even talking about it. We're just doing the same beats over and over again. She's dreaming about Freddy and starts to get scared to go to sleep because she thinks she's gonna die like Dean. Jesse, which is Chris's ex-boyfriend, decides to come visit her when her mother's gone away, and they sleep together in the same bed that night. And in her dream, she's killed by Freddy. This is the Tina death.
Yeah.
It's the Tina death. She, spinning around up the wall, splash of blood. Jesse panics, runs, goes up to Nancy, where he then tells about Freddy. He's been having the same dream. She's been having the same dream. So she does believe him.
Yeah.
Police sirens come. Jesse tries to escape, obviously gets caught. He's the Rod. He's the Rod of the characters. Yeah. Obviously, he's arrested for murdering her. He's going to prison for this. There is no way out of it.
Nope.
No one's believing his Freddy Krueger stuff. It's revealed that but then like the first film, we get the whole knowing glances between parents, Nancy's mother and Jesse's father. No, not Jesse's father. Quentin's father.
Yeah.
Quentin's father, who was played by Clancy Brown.
Ah.
If there's a reason to watch it, Clancy Brown's in it, and you
Krusty
gotta love Clancy Brown.
Krusty Krab. Get his name right.
Anyway, Jesse ends up dying in the police cell when Krueger basically shoves through the back of his chest. There's the thing we said. That's not suicide.
Yeah.
That is...
Yeah.
Like, a coroner's going to be like, something went through the back of him with force.
Yeah.
And there's another inmate, so you're trying to pin on him?
How? How's that going to work? Yeah.
How? What? No, already gone.
Lazy.
It's a shit fucking death. And now we've got Nancy. Now she gets to be the lead character as she starts to investigate and find that they're all connected at a younger age than they first believed. Along with Quentin, who they kind of have some chemistry. I don't mind him so much in this movie. They have chemistry. It's, could we sometimes just do chemistry without the need to be like, oh, I like you?
Yeah.
That way. Could it just be friends?
Yeah.
But of course that shit's here.
I hope they do that, did they?
Eventually they find that they actually went to the same preschool. And Nancy's mother, Gwen, reveals the truth. Are you ready for the biggest change of all? The one that has annoyed people to fucking death. And it really is. And I hate it. And I hate the fact that they double down on it. Fred Krueger is not a child murderer in this. Child molester. Yes, Fred Krueger is a child molester. And he molested these children at this preschool. All were suspected for it, with Nancy being his favourite. Right. This comes out when Nancy finds the box, which has their childhood stuff in it, including one item that you would never have kept, which is her childhood dress with claw marks on it.
It never would be. You would never keep that. How distressing is that? Like, would the police not keep that as evidence or just burn it? You would not. Ugh.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate their whole molestation angle as well.
It's like, you can hate someone for being a child murderer. You haven't got to add that extra part to it.
No, you really don't. I don't see why you had to change the backstory.
No.
The backstory was perfectly fine. Child murderer who got off on a technicality. This is a child molester who the children said he did stuff to them in the basement. There was no evidence. And apparently he just left town. That's what happened. He left town. So it's such a weird change. Because here's the fucked up thing. They have a chance to do something different here. And they don't. So Quentin, rightfully, is like, who the fuck's to say he actually was guilty?
Yeah.
We were kids. We'd have said anything. I loved it. I was like, oh, grab that thread. Hold on to that thread.
No.
Hold on to it. We've got something different here.
Yep.
Hang on to that fucking thread. I'm gripping that like crazy, like an out-of-control kite.
Is he getting... he's...
Getting revenge for what happened to him based off a lie.
Yeah.
Whoa. I'm hanging on to that thread. That is a sexy thread, and I want it. I want it. But we'll get to that. Because the parents hunted him down and set fire to him. That's it. They killed him and set fire to him. Nancy tries to track down the rest of the kids, and it turns out they've all been killed. We get another one of those really dumb things. You know where people Google things on the internet, and she finds a video diary of a guy who's been suffering from Freddy Krueger, including the last video ever uploaded where he gets killed at the end of it. The end of the video, like he falls asleep and he gets smashed into the camera. Question: who uploaded it?
Yeah.
Who uploaded that video to the internet? If he died, who uploaded that to the internet? Who?
Yeah.
His parents found it and were like, well, let's upload his videos to the internet.
Yeah.
So
We're going through a traumatic time. Let's put it online.
it's fucking absurd.
Yeah.
Just dumb fucking things like that. But basically, after Jesse, it's just her and Quentin. They're the last two kids left from the from the school.
Yeah.
Probably the best dream sequence happens in this movie now. Quentin falls asleep during swim practice.
Yeah.
Now, this film does have a problem with super sleepiness. And we will get to the micro naps angle in a bit, which I hate. But he does it's a similar thing to almost what's her face, Yvonne, where he dives and when he comes out of the water, he's in like a barren landscape, and it looks great.
Yeah, I like the idea of that.
And I love this. I love the fact that it does actually feel like he's somewhere else. He's standing there, freezing cold in his trunks and his swimming cap and goggles, and boof past him. goes running Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
and the non-burned one.
Yeah.
And then you got all these cars and all that flying past him. And like, everyone's got to pretend you're not there. And, like, love it. And basically he sees what happened. And it was, unfortunately, it was trailer fodder. Because I love the scene of Jackie Ayla Hurley on the other side of the door. What did I do? I didn't do anything and stuff like that. It's all like that thread. Let me hold on to it. And they're like, they throw a Molotov in to try and get him to come out. I don't think they ever intended to kill him. Well, we see they didn't intend to kill him. I know. You're really taking a chance there.
That it's not going to like burst into flames. And I said the thread that you're holding on to is a really good one, because that's why vigilante justice groups are disencouraged, because they've not got the facilities to do the job properly.
Yeah.
So it could be that you're putting an innocent man to his death.
Yeah. Of what is just wrong.
Yeah, just like in general. Because say like, if this person, if Freddy Krueger did what they said, then yeah, they goes down that route. But if you get it wrong, then you kill someone innocent, or
Agreed. So yeah, trailer fodder, because this was the famous scene in the trailer where the flames all around him and he unzips his coat to reveal the red and green sweater. It is a great look, great reveal, except you'd seen it in the trailer, so who gave a fuck?
Yeah.
Obviously he burns to death, he doesn't escape, and you can see by the parents' reactions, they're like, oh, they didn't mean to do it.
Yeah.
What's to call it? So Quentin, and after he wakes up, that's right, no. Then you get one of the bad, did you follow that with CGI bollocks? He bursts. Do you not remember? Freddy bursts from the thing with running flaming towards Quentin. CGI fire bollocks. He wakes up. Him and Nancy decide to then go find this preschool. Let's find this. Perhaps we can prove he didn't do it. That'll be enough, kind of thing. But they're having micro sleeps, micro naps, where they're so tired that they fall asleep for seconds at a time, which can almost allow Krueger to appear wherever he wants. It's a lazy fucking excuse to have more Krueger.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you get lots of stuff in a fucking gas station, on the road. But, during a fight, she ends up pulling a bit of a sweater off. And that's where, I can bring things into the real world stuff. That's what that is. Quentin takes Nancy off, she's hurt, after the claws, to the hospital. He steals adrenaline, which is the plan to keep them awake. She's not up for it, he's up for it. Doesn't fucking work. And they find a preschool. And they come to the basement and all that, and it's like, no, we were wrong. Like, there's nothing here. And that thread is like, oh, cool, let's see where this goes. And then they find a secret room.
There you go.
And that kite is gone, mate.
Yep.
That tornado was taking that kite away for them to reveal a secret child molesting dungeon where Quentin finds pictures of, Nancy, obviously inappropriate pictures of children. It's just like, so we are just doing that.
Yeah.
And from that as well, Krueger ramps up as well. When he's seen him, he now starts to be like, oh yeah, you're my favourite, and tongues and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, fuck you, film. Yeah. Fuck you. I don't bollocks. So instead of wanting revenge on them for lying, he just wants revenge on them for telling the truth. Doesn't quite have the same gravity, does it? Yeah. So Nancy's like, well, I'm going to sleep here. Let's get him out into the real world. Quentin is going to stay awake and basically wake her up. But he falls asleep.
Yeah, shocking.
Can you believe it? So basically, Krueger reveals that he deliberately left her last so she would stay like awake long enough to be comatose, and then he can have her all to himself.
Yeah.
It's very implied again, very but Quentin ends up waking up after being hurt badly by Krueger and using adrenaline to wake Nancy up. She drags Krueger into the reality. And they fight. They fight. And she ends up using a broken paper cutter to kill him. Cuts his head off.
Yeah.
And then they set fire to the room.
And then
That's it, basically. The police come, couldn't find Krueger's remains. Head back home, and we get your fake out ending as well.
Yeah.
Where Nancy's mother's standing by the mirror and Krueger bashes through it and kills her through it. Through the eyes and then back out.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie.
Bad film.
Bad film. Bad remake, bad film.
It's so frustrating. It's just the opportunity. It feels like I can take the piss because they've got an audience that's just going to go, oh, we know Freddy. Let's watch a remake with no kind of respect to the law, or just It's so frustrating. Like, because obviously we watched Noah remake as well, and that was just dog plops as well.
Ultimately, what they changed for the worst.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me. What they changed for the worst. I understand that a child molestation angle in 2010 is way more acceptable in movies than 1984, but I don't get what you aided there. You kept so much of it based in the same fucking plot line. Why would you change that? How is it not so straightforward to be child murderer like the original?
Yeah.
And then have him hunting down the children of...
Yeah.
It's so much more sensible. It's straightforward. It's easy. And you avoid that kind of grimy feel about it too as well, which isn't horror. It's just, ugh.
Yeah.
You know?
I could do about that, yeah.
If you're like, oh, well, it makes Freddy Krueger more of a villain.
He was already a villain.
Yeah, I know. I know. And all you had to do was look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare and go, okay, that's the same wisecracker. Yeah, it's portrayed this way. Okay, we've got a new actor. We'll portray him this way. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Cast-wise, no one does bad. There's no like, that's awful. But there's so many forgettable characters.
Yeah.
So many forgettable roles. I'm really not going to remember anyone.
No.
And the ones I'm going to remember negatively. I do remember negatively already at this stage.
Yeah.
This is not my first rodeo with the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
No.
And I think it's a real fucking shame for certain actors as well, like Jackie Earl Haley, that this kind of hurt his stock, I think, more than anything else. They didn't really come out looking better. It has moments, though. It does have some... It's not terrible. Like, it's not like I'd say this is a 1 or a 2 out of 10. It's a 5. Because it is glossy. It's got budget, so that's a positive. And it's going to appeal to a more modern audience.
Yeah.
There are elements like the school part where Chris falls asleep and poof, everything just explodes in the dust around her.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. The body bag scene, although it's repeated, is not bad as well in this. The Quentin coming out of the pool, I like that. You know, but then I'm offset by parts where it's like you UCG and you made it worse. The ending with the mirror, I hated. You quite liked. They repeat the part where Freddy's coming out of the wall above Nancy's bed. CGI'd it, and it looks like shit. Shit. It was 2010. And it looks like shit.
It looks like a mummy. Looks like the mummy comes out in the mummy when it comes out the sand. They did CGI mummy. I was like, oh, it's in that kind of level of shit.
Yeah. Yet the one in 84 holds up.
Yeah.
It's like, what is wrong with you? Why don't you understand that you will date and age your film and there will be no longevity in it? Here's the thing. Like most remakes, when people are going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street, they're not going to talk about this one, ever.
No.
They'll always talk about the original. Then you failed.
Yeah.
Because you haven't even done a new idea. You've not done original. We talked about that thread. You had something there. You had something that would made an obvious different. It wouldn't have been groundbreaking, but it'd been like, oh, that's something different.
Yeah.
I love the idea because then you could almost try and be reasoning with Freddy in a different angle. And it's like, no. It's just that. And I don't love that.
No.
I don't love that, I'm afraid. And that's a real shame.
It's a shame it ended like that as well.
Yeah. It's, like I said, we have left. Like I said, we obviously said at the start we left Freddy vs Jason out of this because it's as much a Nightmare Friday the 13th movie than anything else. I do wonder now, perhaps had we included it, but it doesn't matter now. But so let's order this franchise then. Let's go from worst to best.
Ooh.
Worst.
Oh, it's a toss up for me. From the remake and Freddy's Dead. I think Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, the worst for me.
Mine is Freddy's Dead.
The opportunities missed made it worse to me.
Here's the thing: I find redeeming qualities in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, naming them in Freddy's Dead, naming it because when we did it, we were like, "Oh, Carlos is dead," but it's not great.
I still feel because it was still in the same.
What would you rather watch again? That's what the biggest thing. What would you rather watch again?
Oh God, that's a shit sandwich, isn't it?
Yeah.
I still say Freddy's Dead. Because it's a Freddy that I know and sometimes love and hate in equal measure. Nightmare on Elm Street was just a really poor remake and it just frustrated me.
So your worst one is the remake. Mine is the final Nightmare, Freddy's Dead. Right, next.
And it just goes back. I say...
Your next one?
Yep, 5. Worst.
Wow, you like Freddy's Dead more?
Oh, no, sorry, then Freddy's Dead for me. Yeah, sorry.
I was about to say, what on earth?
Sorry, yeah, Freddy's Dead for me.
Yeah, so we're just going to reverse there, because then for me, next, it would be the remake.
Yeah.
So we've got that. So on equal footing on that. Right, next worst.
Fifth for me.
We're disputing it again. 4, Dream Master.
So we're spinning that one round.
And then the next worst.
Number 2 for me.
Wait, so you think 4's better than 2?
I already said 4. I said
You did 5. You just said 5. We're doing an order. So you had the remake,
Yep.
New Nightmare,
Yep.
5.
Yep.
And I did New Nightmare, the remake,
Yeah,
4.
Yep.
Then what's your next one?
4.
Oh, because you're saying 4's the next one. You didn't say that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because we spin it around in that. Then
Yeah.
mine's 5.
Yeah.
So again, it's the same but reversed.
Yeah.
Okay, then
2. Because I didn't care for that one as much.
New Nightmare. Nope, New Nightmare next for me.
Okay.
Yep, New Nightmare next.
And then I'm going to go... Oh, yeah. Do I like New Nightmare? Yeah, New Nightmare next for me.
All right, then mine will be 2.
And then 3.
I thought you said it was your favourite.
No, because you need to have number 1 to have...
Okay, fair point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I agree. It'll be 3, then 1. I think we'll both agree 1 is the best. Because without 1, you couldn't have 3's impact.
Yeah.
You couldn't have the impact of Nancy, of Donald Thompson, John Saxon, and so on. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think I think the ones we reversed on, chalk and cheese,
yeah.
like not in chalk and cheese, sorry, the other it's minor
Very
little
slight,
things,
yeah.
slight little things that make you go, I'd rather that one slightly more than this one. You know, it's not by much, but it really could. Other than the first, third one, they're all very interchangeable. They all really, really are. There you go. There's our entire walkthrough and conversation and thoughts on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. If you stayed this long, thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/GBHBL, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?